Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Your Worship, the Mayor, councillors, staff and members of the public to the 3rd September Strategy and Policy Committee, and welcome to our online viewers as well. Now, councillors, I did send an email out just explaining we were going to try to make it a more efficient and transparent process by using the extremely low-tech equipment that we have in the chamber. So we're going to try and use the resolutions, put them up on the board, and we're going to use the board for voting, or we're going to attempt to use the board for voting. It does mean that Councillor King is going to get a little bit more exercise than us because he has to sprint round there and press his button, and it means that I've elevated myself to the her worship's position, which is quite exciting. But this will also be a more seamless and more efficient for staff as well, having electronic recording. So we know the system's not perfect, but we do want to try and use it a little bit more while we're in the chamber for committees as well. Now I have apologies for lateness from Councillor Wilson and apologies from Councillor Green, and she would like it recorded that she's apology for a family emergency. So with that, I will move that those apologies be received, seconded by Councillor Young. All those in favour? Aye. Against? That's carried. Most important, cup of tea is at 3 p.m, and for members of the public there is a tea trolley out in the corridor as well. So confirmation of an agenda, you are just getting a new run sheet sent out now, but there are no changes to the agenda, so I will move that the agenda be received, seconded by Councillor Tooman. All those in favour? Against? That's carried, thank you. Any declarations of interest? No. And I've been informed there's no public forum. So we will move straight to item 5, which is on page 5, the open minutes of the 16th of July, Strategy and Policy Committee. I've checked those minutes and they are true and accurate. Yes, Councillor Mallett.
On page 10, resolve that B, that staff report back to the 26th of August briefing. Did that happen?
Yes, it did. For the fire bylaw, yep.
I'll put a tick on that.
Yes. And no further
and
questions.
Also just a nitpicky one, page 11, E, staff report back to the November, I assume that should say November 2014 Strategy and Planning Committee. Unless it's not 2014, it's 2014.
We can pop that in there.
Use it.
All right, so no further questions. I'll move that the true and accurate record, seconded by Councillor Young. Any discussion? All those in favour?
Sorry, I just had another one. Page 12, sorry, it's just a question, so it's the third bullet point. An update on the Three Waters work stream, Has that been reported back?
That was the update. That
that is the
update I gave, yes.
Oh, okay.
I gave that update, and that's the summary of the update.
That's an update of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. So all those in favour?
Right.
Against? That's carried. The action list on page 16, this also includes a policy review update schedule and a bylaw list as well. Page 16. So if we just go through to page 17, the action list first, if all the changes are marked on red. I just had one there on the item 7, the second column, the smoke-free, in red should have also been deferred to 15th of October because that has been pushed back. You can capture that, please. Councillor Mallett.
Same page, Angela. Third point down, governance structure for the 13-16 tree. The next two bits are empty. GM, who's responsible, and any comments? Is there any feedback?
That's the heading for the two underneath the events.
So where's that? Which page?
On page 17.
17.
Yes. Item 9, 28th of November. There's a heading there says governance structure. The two items underneath are just sitting under there.
So that's
just
the
come
heading,
from
sorry.
the governance
Okay.
structure statement, yeah. So there's two outstanding documents still of work still to come.
Go down 3 boxes and there's 2 empty boxes. But on the comments, it's the Hamilton Arts Forum complete a review.
Under the 5th of February.
Yes.
Yeah, the title's dropped
That
out of
appears
there.
to be, yeah, there certainly was titles there. I don't know what's happened there,
Yeah.
councillor. It relates to the public art element, so apologies for that. They were there.
Look, the one below that's just is supposed to be joint with that. That's just one whole thing, isn't it? Those two boxes together.
Actually, yes.
Oh, yeah,
right.
they are.
Page 19,
I have a question.
Your Worship.
Because this has been outstanding now for over a year, and I would like to know when that project is to be completed.
Might get Aaron just.
Through the chair, we are aiming to bring a report to the October.
So that should, that narration then should read to be reported in October.
Where is it on this list?
First one on.
Oh, the first one, okay. So October 2014.
Sorry, are we still on that page? There's a comment there on the right-hand column where it says the regular reports that the NZ Transport Agency provides are made available to elected members for the executive update. I'm just wondering how often they come through, because I don't recall having seen those. And if I have, it's only really been, you know, how the table down the bottom goes with like a half sentence with some things, but I don't think, I only recall our own planning things being in that.
Just Chris, whether Chris can.
Yeah, councillor, I'll have to seek advice on that. I wasn't at that meeting, so I've just been looking at that one as well. So could I, perhaps after the tea break, just inform you about that report?
Because I imagine they'll be a little bit more lengthy than half a line if we get them.
Struggling to visualise the report that was referred to, so I just need to talk to the transport manager and I can brief you at the morning tea break.
Okay.
There haven't been any, that's only been sitting there for a couple of meetings, so we haven't actually had any updates yet.
I think it was the last meeting.
So would that mean there'd be no HP trucks come through on those routes in that time then, Chris?
No, incorrect.
I thought so.
Okay. I just have a query up on Citygate Plaza, up the top of page 19 there, or under Cultural Precinct. It says contract has been drafted and expected to be completed by 31 August. Is that, so that has been done?
So through the chair, we have a contract with here which we're able
Are there any further questions?
Could I ask, in general, just given the questions that have been asked, is it possible for someone from management to actually go through this report before it comes here? Because I think we've had questions like this last couple of times.
The action list?
Yeah, the action list, sorry, and actually have anywhere where there's a discrepancy or something, have it all checked out first and give us a supplementary answer to save us getting suspicious.
But look, thanks, Councillor McPherson. I certainly don't get suspicious, but you raise a really good point that I'm not sure that the way that the process that's happening is working, because that agenda setting, there's 3 items not on here from the last 16th of September meeting. That's the Zoo Strategic Review action, the Community Assistance Funding action, and the Cycleway Plan. and I asked for those to be included at agenda setting, and they're still not on here, so that tells me this process is not working. So I think it's a
So
good
just
suggestion.
on, yeah, thanks for that. I'm happy that you're following that up too. The community assistance plan, wasn't that due to come back to this meeting?
You're actually, yes, and that's my next point. You're right, Councillor McPherson.
So what's happened to it?
Yeah. It does say that it's due to report back to this meeting the 3rd of September.
The working group had one meetings, and we need to report.
It's on the schedule for October, so.
Yeah.
So why has it been delayed? I mean,
It's been delayed.
Yeah, it's been the working.
Couldn't get a date. Couldn't get a date for everyone to meet.
Okay.
okay. So maybe we're not being realistic when we put the original stuff down.
Yeah, look, I think you raise another really good point, actually, because I keep, as you know, I keep a A3 sheet of the work program of S&P, and I mean, you know, sometimes workloads creep up on us, but I think we are being a little bit optimistic with our dates because the dates are changing quite a lot. So we'll look at that process.
Through the chair, I will follow up on those missing items. What I can say is that the items here are as current as they are at the time the agenda goes out, but of course things are continuing to change, and so certainly I know that the GMs are regularly updating this, but I don't have an answer as to why those three things are missing. I thought they were there, Angela.
I did see you write. I saw your pen move. Okay. All right. There are no further questions on the action list. We've got next pages 22 onwards, submission list. All the additions are in yellow. Councillor Mallett?
Just, I think it's simply an error on page 26 of 181. The last box, status of submissions process, it says HCC submission to be considered and retrospectively approved at the 3 August strategy meeting. It's going to be approved today, so that should be 3/9.
Yes.
I have to apologise to the committee. Normally I'm a very eagle-eyed and pore over all of these reports in my hot review, and I didn't get the chance to do that this time, just to work commitments and other things.
We're here to back you up then.
I apologise for that. Otherwise you'd be quiet because I would have picked up all of this stuff. I was just wondering, could I and I'm ready to move with a motion. I just want to make a little bit of a change to the motion, all of this, but I wanted to update councillors just on the psychoactive substances regulation submission, and that's on page 24. Look, I've had a very quick read on that, and although it's around pricing and manufacturing control, it's not really too much around retail at the moment. I do think that there are some issues that need discussion by us. I'm very happy that the government has put in regulations and rules around the seller of psychoactive substances has to put forward a plan, has to identify risks, the plan has to manage those risks, things like not allowed to sell 2 products to the same person consecutively, and but one thing out of it is that the government has decided through that submission process to add further prohibitions on the place of sale for retailers, and that is, and I quote, not to be near a place by its nature is likely to be frequented by minors. So that, I think, will have an impact on our policy. So in my motion, I would like, if it's supported, staff to go away and have a look at that and then bring it to an elected member briefing, just to keep us updated on the process. Councillor McPherson?
Sorry, I had a question on another one on page 24, if that's all right.
Sorry, can I just, through the chair, just note that the retail regulations, we understand, are still being worked on. So
Sure. Look, my question related to submission 398 at the top of page 24. I just want to ask through you to the General Manager, I guess, whether what's the flavour of submissions relating to Southern Links, whether there is, what's your take or your staff's take on how that's going? I know it's not finished yet, but are there some significant submissions in opposition that might sort of slow up our Peacock's work in future?
The hearing is reconvened today on some minor matters, but my take on it is that it's going very well. There seems to be generally significant support for Southern Links around the table with issues around, particular issues around ecology and lapse periods and things like that. The indications are that we will get a favourable recommendation on the lapse period, which is good. So look, I think given the size and complexity of the project, it's going extremely well. So hopefully I'm not too wrong when the decision comes out, but it's going pretty well at the moment.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions? Just on pages 27 there, you'll see a policy review schedule and a bylaw list, just as we're beavering our way through all the reviews of those. And
Just something that we've noted when the agenda has been published. Unfortunately, the system, and we'll fix it for the future, has dropped off the heading on that table. So the left-hand date on page 27 is the original date that the item was scheduled to come to this meeting. The third column, which has completed in bold, that is the updated or revised date. So just a critical piece of information. So in the instance of, say, 3rd of September, there was municipal endowment. At this stage, they're scheduled for the 15th of October. That obviously may change as we get regular updates, but that's how you read that.
There have been no questions. So I'd like to move the recommendation on page 16, A, that the report be received, and B, that staff report to the next elected member briefing with a summary on the psychoactive substances regulations. So I'll move that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mallett. Any discussion? Favour? Against? Item 7, page 30, and this is the proposed open air burning bylaw determination report. Now we have Peter Hallett. Do you want to step up to the plate? From the Fire Service, he's our Risk Management Officer, and from Regional Council, Rob. Would you like to step up to the plate as well? He's the Compliance and Education Manager. Now, committee, we have had a lot of discussion on this, and I thank staff and the Fire Service and WRC for attending the briefing we had on this topic last week. There's been a lot of information, and I'm acutely aware of information overload on this topic. I think how I'm going to run this is there for questions on the report. You can take the report as read. Questions on the report. I don't think it's going to help us to cross-examine with questions. Please leave your position on the bylaw to the debate process, and we'll use the board for the motion and the board for voting. So questions on the report. On the report, yep. Councillor King.
We were sent a document with facts and figures on it on the 1st of September, which I believe has information which I believe appears to be incorrect. Can I ask questions on that report that was sent out 2 days ago?
So that was a memo from staff? Yep. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yep, you can ask.
Just to be clear, I think,
Councillor Muller?
Andrew, it's from Liz Fallsworth,
Yep.
Peter McGregor.
That's
1 September.
Yep.
Yep,
D150693.
it was the memo with extra information circulated. So yes, you can ask that question.
Okay, and on page 1, under point 1, the last bullet point, Hamilton is the only urban city without the ability to implement a fire ban.
Yes, from our research, that's correct. There are some urban cities that don't have fire bylaws, but they are covered by a rural fire area, and therefore they can place a fire ban under that.
So what size is an urban city and a rural city?
Well, I think it just depends on where the rural fire areas are. What we did is we looked through the cities that didn't have fire ban, didn't have an open air burning bylaw, and then checked as to whether they rang them up and checked as to how they do declare a fire ban, and they stated that they were under a rural fire area.
Is there any reason why we can't use that same process instead of putting a bylaw in place?
Because we're not under a rural fire area.
Okay. So places like New Plymouth and Whangarei are under rural fire brigades?
That's what they told us, yes.
So they don't require a bylaw? Okay. Just another comment on that.
Questions only at this stage, Councillor King, please.
Another question on that same memo. You said, in summary, no organisation can effectively and efficiently deal with lower level nuisance fires. And I just wondering why Environment Waikato have pamphlets in circulation which state under the law your activity must not affect people, plants, animals outside your property boundary. This means that you must not cause odour problems, health or safety risks, or damage to other people's properties. You must manage any discharge that may carry by air, such as smells, smoke, dust, or light material.
So we'll go regional council, so that you're clear on the question?
Yes, thank you, Sue. What I understand is you want clarification as to why we're saying regional council can't manage this situation, given the statement that you've just read out.
Yes, that's the question.
Well, on the next paragraph down.
No, please don't read it, Councillor King. I think you understand the question.
Hang on the next paragraph down, you say that you can give a $1,000 fine if this happens.
Absolutely, and so obviously enforcement actions such as infringement notices can only be taken once an offence has been established. Under the regional plan, we have a rule that enables, and it's quite a general rule, enables a number of different types of discharges to air, everything from agrochemicals to dust, and it of course includes smoke and odour. The particular condition that relates to smoke talks about it's permitted unless it causes it's objectionable to the extent it causes an adverse effect beyond the property boundary. The threshold for something to be objectionable to the extent that it causes an adverse effect beyond the property boundary is a relatively high threshold, and we find ourselves in a situation where there's quite a grey area at the lower end of that threshold for what you might call more nuisance fires. And you know, that's the area where the regional council, it's not clear as to exactly where that line is. The bylaw as proposed, as I understand it, will provide a greater degree of clarity at that bottom end for the fire service to use.
Thank you. Yep.
Is it not that you're not prepared to enforce the rules that you've got in place, and therefore it's cascading down to Hamilton City Council?
Absolutely not, please.
Because they're right.
We're not, sorry, Councillor King, to interrupt, but look, we need to be concise with our questions and don't use them. I said don't use them to cross-examine. Questions for information.
The document's very clear.
Well, yes, but you've had your answer from the regional council staff member as well. So, any further questions on the report?
Yes, we were given examples of out-of-control fires, and the out-of-control fires, according to the NIWA rainfalls in 2010, we would never have had a fire ban in place.
Sorry, Councillor King, that's not a question on the report.
I'm asking why we were told that you were using these as examples when there would never have been a fire ban in place in that summer anyway.
That's the summer of 2010, 2011. The
That's
two
correct.
fire dates are the 22nd of November 2010 and the 15th of December 2010. And the data that we have shows that it was extremely dry then. That wasn't January, February, March 2010. It was the other end of the year. So it was November, December 2010.
Have you seen a NIWA report that I emailed back to you?
Look, no, I'm sorry. We can't be having questions like this. It's not helpful. You can take that offline with staff if you like, but at the moment,
concerned we're making
Councillor King, sorry, the chair is speaking. Thank you. I'm just going to, I know you've got other questions, but I'd like to go around the table first and while you're sorting out some of the questions, because I think there's probably a lot on that list you can't ask that I'm not going to allow you to ask. So I'm going to go to Councillor Mallett first and then Councillor Forsyth.
Andrew's asked the questions. I was going to ask the questions about the threshold for the Waikato. Well, I guess just you're talking about the grey area, and that's the confusion, I think, in that if there's already a authority that has the power to manage nuisance fires, why should the Hamilton City Council also have an overlapping law? But you're suggesting the threshold for your intervention is higher than the threshold for what is being asked for here.
Yeah, I believe so. I think, perhaps it's helpful to think, how did this whole situation come up? The fire service came to us, the regional council, and to the city council, saying that they had a problem. They had a problem with certain types of fires which were meaning that their resources were significantly tied up trying to deal with those, and there wasn't clear legislation as to how they could deal with it. They came to us and said, have you got any powers that we could use to help solve this problem so our fire engines aren't tied up on the side of the road instead of responding to emergencies? When we did our analysis, even if our regional plan rule had covered this scenario, we're not able to warrant the fire service. The law doesn't allow us to give the fire service powers to act under the regional plan. And so the conversation that we had between the two councils and the fire service said, well, what are the options available to us? The option that's been put forward by the council staff is, the culmination of heads around the table to say, what's the most efficient and effective way to deal with these types of fires?
Thank you. Councillor Forsyth?
Does that answer the question?
Any further questions before I go back to Councillor King? Councillor Wilson, moved by Councillor Wilson. Councillor Wilson, I wonder if you would just, I would like to second that, but in 8, I wonder if you would accommodate just a slight change. The council resolved the statement of proposal be drafted in consultation with the fire service.
Sounds good.
And the reason I do that is because they have helped other councils around the country draft these bylaws before. So if that's okay, so that's been moved by Councillor Wilson, seconded by myself. So I'll open it up for debate. Councillor Wilson, did you want to go first?
Yes, I'd like to call you your worship.
You were hoping for that.
Madam Chair, look, throughout my 11 years in local government, I don't think there's been an issue that has been so well discussed and debated at early committee meetings and subcommittee meetings. Fire service and staff have been thoroughly cross-examined, and the facts remain, as I see it, as this. It's not often that an emergency service provider comes to local government asking for help. And of all the emergency services, the fire service to me appears to be sincerely wanting an additional weapon in their arsenal to provide good public safety. I do not believe It's motivated by a desire to take people's property rights away from them, to limit them in any way. I see it as simply the fire service requesting of this local government a bylaw that will enable them to do their job and prioritise how they do their job. And I think it's a no-brainer. And I have been astonished at some of the concerns that my elected colleagues have raised. And I hope that they reflect and look at those who are asking for this assistance and realise that it's simply motivated by the desire to ensure good public safety. I do not believe they are going to use it heavy-handedly, and I think the only logical step is for this committee and subsequently the council to ratify it and empower them to do their job. So I encourage my colleagues to give them the support that the New Zealand Fire Service has asked.
Other speakers? Councillor Gallagher?
Yes, I think certainly be supporting this bylaw, and I think the issue is that a bylaw, if you like, ultimately is the legal backstop, and that I want to acknowledge the history to date of the New Zealand Fire Service, and particularly at local level, of the excellent education campaigns. And I'm minded, I think when I was MP, but round the traps at a Christmas fair in the Norton area near the Western Community Centre, and the fire service are there, you know, with the kitchen and stuff, and you put a bit of fat and you open it and the flames go up and all of that. But that's just an example of the kind of interactive stuff that the fire service does in terms of its education role, just to get across to people just how sort of terrible the consequences can be. I suspect that we have a local authority area called Hamilton in Victoria, sheep shearing capital of Australia. I suspect the Hamilton City Council, albeit there are only 20,000 people, would be quite bemused that their New Zealand named counterpart was having this kind of debate. And I think in Australia they would take it as a given that we would get on with this stuff. But certainly we'll be strongly supporting Councillor Wilson in your recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Pascoe.
Yes, I wish also to speak in favour of the motion. I think the needs that are set out in paragraph 30 of the report have been established, that there is a need for a change in the bylaw. Secondly, as Councillor Wilson has outlined, the request has come from a very responsible service provider. And thirdly, I think if there's a reasonable person legal test attached to this, I think that's also been established in the sense that most residents would support a change to, from a safety point of view around fire bans, as well as that nuisance aspect to fires that are lit, that blow smoke around and smell washing and all the other things that occur from that.
Thank you. Councillor Forsyth.
Thank you. Listen, I am going to support the recommendation for the statement of proposal, and I do have faith in our New Zealand Fire Service that they do execute a reasonableness as well as expertise in what they do. But look, I'm as an aside, I'm really excited to hear that, Councillor Wilson, that you're really supportive of our emergency services when they do seek council assistance. And in the last 3 years, I know New Zealand Police have sought the assistance of council with the one-way door policy, so I'm really looking forward to that similar kind of support.
They want a fire ban as well. They're going to burn down the place.
Further
One-way door
speaker?
policy. One-way door. I haven't been so supportive.
Councillor King.
Firstly, I'd like to say that I am supportive of the police and our fire brigade and our people out there in uniform who do a great job. I'm not anti-authority and I'm all for them, but we do live in a city which is where it is an urban city. We don't have long grass, we don't have radiata pine, we don't have peat fires, and we do have barbecues, bonfires in the summer where we stand around with our friends and enjoy the experience. The reason we do it at that time of year is because it's warm, we're outside, and they're normally still nights where we're responsible people. I've seen over the last 2 summers, they've been the driest 2 summers on record, going back probably 8 years. I've seen no education from either our own council educating us on fires. I haven't seen any education from our regional council, and I haven't seen any education from, or any news releases from our fire brigade suggesting that we shouldn't be lighting outdoor fires. I question whether this bylaw is required or whether it's another bylaw for the sake of a bylaw. I suspect it's not about the summer outdoor burning at all, which already has a regional policy statement and rules around it, which clearly says there's a $1,000 fine if any smoke goes into your neighbour's property. I just don't think they're enforcing it, and I just don't know why we're taking it on so eagerly. Another thing that we have to enforce. In 2007, we had a bylaw, and some of you on this council, in conjunction with the New Zealand Fire Service, decided we didn't need that bylaw anymore. I don't know what's changed. I also don't think that fear is a reason that we should be introducing this bylaw either. Our cars crash, people die, we don't ban cars. Policemen get shot. The central government doesn't let police carry weapons, only when there's real risk that they get the weapons out. But I think this is quite fear-based, and I don't think it's about summer fires at all. I strongly believe it's actually about the nuisance fires, which are mums and dads burning rubbish in their incinerators out the back of their houses with neighbours who don't get on, and reporting it through to our council, who aren't reporting it on to the regional council. I think that there's a real danger here that I don't believe the evidence that we've been given is perfect, and I am concerned that we become rubber stampers, and that we should be basing our voting and what we do on evidence, not emotion. And I believe that this is an emotional vote, not an evidence-based vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers? I would just like to say something. Look, here's what I know about this issue. It's the government's goal to have the New Zealand Fire Service build safer communities with those communities, in partnership with those communities, and we are in that community. We currently don't and can't implement a fire ban for our city, and you know, I was, like most of you, searching on Google temperature rises and all sorts of things, and the latest international report that is actually published on the website says that New Zealand will get hotter and experience more days where extreme fire is a risk. That makes me fearful. We're the only city in New Zealand that doesn't have one. You know, it is a no-brainer. I agree with Councillor Wilson. And I also trust the fire service. As far as evidence goes, the evidence for me is that an expert is sitting in front of me telling me that there's a gap and we need to fill that gap. No one is harmed by this bylaw, but people could be saved. The purpose of the fire service is fire safety, fire prevention, and then fire extinction, in that order. And that's all that this is about. This is just about preventing. This is about fire safety. Councillor King referenced, you know, we're eagerly embracing this. You bet your bottom dollar I'm eagerly embracing this, because I don't want to be the politician who says no to a very simple process and a small bylaw. It's not going to harm anyone, but that might cause the loss of life if we didn't have one. I'm not going to be that person to say no to that. So yes, I'm eagerly embracing it. And yes, I am afraid of fire. I have had, when I was a child, a friend burnt from a fire in a drum in the backyard, wasn't attended. So I am fearful, and I'm happy to use that as part of my evidence. So, Councillor Wilson, would you like a right of reply?
Not required.
Not required. Okay, so being no further speakers, the motion is on the board. And just for our viewing public, this means that a statement of proposal on what that bylaw might look like will come back to the 15th of October Strategy and Policy Committee meeting. So we're just basically starting the bylaw journey, and then it will go out for public
Who's your
consultation.
deputy chair?
So if we can,
Who's
so
your
if we
deputy
can,
chair? Can't see him.
yeah, he's
Oh,
dashed to his
there.
button. So use your buttons, please. We'll put the vote. And that, sorry, you say that, but don't you?
Carried, Madam Chair, 10 votes for, 2 against.
Thank you. You're going to
So
get
just with regard to that, Julie's actually voting your name and you're voting Julie's name, aren't you?
No, that's not the mail. That's on the board.
Madam, I assume when the news stuff.
Oh, I beg your pardon, I have to, yeah.
Councillor.
When the new system, let's try this. This is cool.
Yeah.
When the new, yeah, absolutely. But when the new system's in, I don't, and I feel for Councillor
I
Mann
know.
to be in a similar position. But,
Yeah.
but that'll be all. Yeah, they'll be mobile.
Absolutely.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you.
He's got less
Right.
distance to run.
Next item, thank you.
Sitting here, I'm not going to do it.
Fire Service and Regional Council for attending. Right, item 8, page 35, Regional Operations Roundup Report. Page 35.
I'll move.
Moved by Her Worship, seconded by Councillor Forsyth. Any discussion?
Can we have her name corrected?
Yes, I do. There was an E in there. Councillor Mallett and then Councillor McPherson.
Just a little confused about this. A number of us, Your Worship, Margaret, myself, and Dave, went to a couple of meetings downstairs on bus. I think it was public transport. We typically talk about buses. Yeah. What is this? What did that have to do with this? I never quite knew what the name of that meeting was.
So, councillors, if you go to paragraph 37, so all of those workshops were a precursor to developing a regional passenger transport plan, or an RPTP. So the state that's at now is that a draft has been developed and is ready to go out for consultation. So it will be adopted for consultation by the Development Committee on the 6th of October. There's a workshop scheduled with Hamilton City Council at 9:30 a.m. on the 9th of September to give councillors an opportunity to ask questions about it, and before it goes to the Development Committee meeting and then out to the public for consultation.
Thanks, Chris.
And this is an important document because it's the first time you will see lines on paper in terms of where the bus services are proposed. So it is really important phase or milestone that council have a look at this draft proposal before it goes out.
Thank you. So, okay, in response to that, my suggestion that the plan should be developed such that cycles and buses never impede private vehicles. Did that get in?
Not that I can recall. I don't.
It was on the blackboard
Possibly
at one
not,
stage.
Councillor Mallett.
It was on the
Possibly
blackboard
not.
at one stage.
So they're a good question to ask in the morning of the 9th of September.
Councillor McPherson?
I was almost about to say that I agreed with Councillor Mallett's question until the last sentence, but that wasn't what I was going to ask about. I was going to ask the General Manager if in all this discussion on transport here and reporting of it, and thanks for the report, there was any mention in the meetings or by anyone of cycling and walking, because I struggled to find anything there, and particularly in light of actually quite a good workshop that we had a week and a half ago, here in this council about the cycling plan and the work we're doing it here, and more particularly at that meeting, a representative from NZTA was present and challenged us to ask again for some resources from central government, and given that their sudden interest, their cycling has suddenly grown a pre-election interest again, I would have thought that it was well time for the region and the city to be formally talking about how cycling, active transport fits into the picture. It's left out of this picture.
Of which picture? Which?
Well, the whole report. The picture of
Under
these
27.
are the things that they're currently
Okay.
looking at as my priorities at the moment, I guess.
So,
but I might have missed it.
So is it included?
So a number of answers to that. So the first one is the issue we just talked about is public transport. So it wouldn't be in there in the walking and cycling. I think the issue
I'm talking about the whole report covering transport.
Yeah. So the issue is more probably relevant to development of the regional land transport plan. So that's the new name for what people would know as the regional land transport strategy. So that's where walking and cycling gets anchored as an important component of the transport portfolio. So I guess associated with the development of that regional land transport plan is a program of works, or the regional land transport program. That has a tie-up to Council's own 10-year plan in terms of what investment councils want to make into walking and cycling. So the process that Council is going through for the working committee in reviewing the walking and cycling plan, I expect will inform our LTP and inform the regional land transport program that would sit under the regional land transport plan, which is being developed at the moment for the next 3 years.
I'm glad you mentioned that you'd expect it to come under that regional land transport plan area, because I looked at that heading, which starts at the bottom of page 35, and then looked at the 6 focus areas for Council's policy framework under that plan, which is number 16 over the page on page 36, and still can't see any mention of cycling and or active transport. All good things that are there, but it just seems a gap. And I wouldn't like it to be that this council comes up with some good work in the cycle plan area, and only to find that the regional stuff's sort of gone past that because it's not already listed as a priority. They don't take a lot of notice of it. That sort of thing has happened with the regional council before and that regional transport committee. I think we need to be upfront and say we're doing work in this area. We think it's important. The government has stated once again that it is important. And we should certainly take the pre-election opportunity to get it on the list of priorities, I would have thought.
Look, I can assure you walking and cycling is an important component of the regional land transport plan. I think what's more relevant, though, is the program and what councils and NZTA are willing to invest in. So the development of the program and our own LTP will be quite defining in that, in terms of development of our review of our cycling strategy, and what projects council might want to invest in and what projects they might want to look to government for assistance in terms of subsidy. So that there is a process that is on us about now where that all happens. So councillors will see that the draft like every 3 years this happens, that we do have to make some judgments of what our likely program is going to be before we have the chance to discuss that with council. So you'll see on page item 18 there that probably item 17 that a draft program will be discussed on 1st of September at the RTC. Now it happens every year. That's likely to be ahead of council's decision on what projects they would like to fund in their 10-year plan. So as staff, we make some
discussed.
Pardon?
Will be or was discussed?
Well, council, and like most councils around the country, have still got those discussions to have.
No, you said will be discussed on the 1st of September. We've had that. It's now the 3rd.
Yeah, sorry. So that was the meeting. That was the meeting this week. Phil, I'm not sure whether it made that onto the agenda or wasn't at the meeting. So this was the confirmation of the draft program. Was that tabled at the RTC meeting yesterday, day before? It was.
Thank you.
Yeah. So my point is that as staff, we've tabled a program that hasn't been in front of council. yet. So there are opportunities to modify that program as council is having its own discussions over the next few months.
Does that have some cycling active transport initiatives on it?
It would probably, the project that we've put in is pretty reflective of our current program, which is more focused on the discretionary transport funding, where you can do a multitude of things, but I don't think we've put an assumption in that there'll be any large cycling projects in that. That would be for council to have that discussion as part of the LTP and then us try and put it into the program.
Okay, I understand that. So are you assuring us that we could, if council chooses, add something in that area that's significant later? I'm just thinking of the discussion that was held a week and a half ago, where there was certainly discussion about things that I think would be regarded as significant.
I asked that specific question of Andrew McKillop 2 days ago, knowing that our cycling project was coming up, and there appears to be new funding and a desire to do walking and cycling, and he's assured me that we could add that in at a later date.
Okay, thank you very much.
If I could just clarify something, at the Regional Transport Committee, the program wasn't discussed, but it was discussed that the program will come forward.
That's local government speak. We discussed
Thank
it, we're
you.
going to discuss.
Right, thank you. If there are no further questions, the Mayor has moved it. Councillor.
Just one thing. I'd like to look at page 2941, which concerns the civil defence and emergency management. The evaluation report for 2014 came in at 72.8%, and when you look at 2000...
Sorry, Councillor Tooman, what page are you on?
39, sorry, 39, yeah. 39, number 41, which deals with civil defence and emergency management. The evaluation report back in 2012 was 30% basically compliant, and it's now gone to 72.8. I think it's probably time that we complimented Blair and his team on the way in which they've become involved with us, and also so to you, Madam Chair, for the educational side, which you're trying to see up now through the schools, with Whitiora being the first one in a few days' time. And I just like that noted.
Right, thank you, Councillor Tooman. So we are in debate. Councillor Gallagher?
Just a question. So basically, just to remind me of the process, basically all sort of transport that relate to region obviously will come through this on a regular report. Is that...
Can I get Blair to answer?
The intention here is it's wider than transport. Any joint regional-wide committees from an operational basis come on a quarterly basis to this meeting, and you'll note on the other cycle we bring the strategic matters such as Mayoral Forum, Future-Proof, UNISAR. So we run an operational regional update, which is this, and then we run a sort of a strategic future-proof update for the other cycle.
Just trying to be helpful, look, I realise this is set up for people who use this instead of paper. You know, you've got all the links. But I think from a report writing point of view, I'd really be interested in if there are key themes, you know, key issues coming up as well. I mean, I read this and it's sort of kind of giving me the structure stuff, but it's not necessarily giving me the issues per se.
I think, Councillor, the direction we've been given is use the links wherever possible to those substantive reports, and that's the direction we've followed. So I guess if that's not the view, then the council...
Well, certainly if our representatives on those, because obviously we want to hear as need be, you know, who worship the Mayor and Leo sit on the regional land transport, Margaret and Leo sit on the Mayor sit on the bus. So if there are issues there that they want as representatives, presumably
they're free to participate and add to any of the points in the debate today.
Yeah. I'm just talking about a wee bit about process. So that would be the point. So basically, if any of the reps felt there was something significant, then that would be included here. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Good point. So it's being moved and seconded. Is there any further debate? All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. So we didn't use that one. Right, item 10, page 45. Sorry, page.
What about
Page 41. Yeah.
Do 9.
This is the retrospective approval of the submission to the Government Policy Statement on Land Transport, and Councillor King has indicated He's got a motion for this. But we'll go on to the report first. Are there any questions? There's just one submission there. We were all emailed the submission and asked for feedback. Councillor Miller.
Thank you very much. On page 44, point 10, along with built infrastructure for public transport, cycling and walking paths, there is a need for public education and incentives to change the mode of travel. Hamilton is advanced in this planning. Can you just give some examples of what we mean by that?
It's really to see the idea, but in terms of advancing our planning, we've got a strategy that talks about active modes. We're doing a lot on PT in terms of bus shelters and bus stops, and there's the whole PT strategy review that's happened. We're working on cycle strategy, and we've got some walking issues to deal with mobility impaired and pedestrian crossings and children crossing to school.
Okay, so that's what you're referring to.
That's all. Yeah.
And on number 11, we say the alcohol, drugs, the right track program. This program has a huge success rate. Being, you're judging your own program, what evidence have you got of that?
Yes, the police do a report on that in terms of recidivism of people committing crimes or actually drunk driving and driving offences. And I think it's about 85% success where people do not go back and reoffend.
And what was the recidivism rate prior to the program?
Well, 100% recidivists. That's why they're on the program, because they've been continually drink driving and drug driving and unlicensed things, speeding and all.
Oh, so it's people who...
They're not reoffending and they're driving.
Okay.
Thank you. So, questions? Councillor King, question?
Just going back to Gary's question on page 44.10, specifically and incentives to change the mode of travel. What are the incentives that you're talking about?
Sorry, I disagreed with you.
So it's second line, point 10, and incentives to change the mode of travel.
Oh, for instance, in the in public transport, they're looking at the regional council looking at incentives for student travel, like concession fares, that sort of thing. For example, they're looking at make concessions for students to incentivise them to use public transport rather than clutter up the roads for that sort of vehicle trip for a car.
So who's carrying the costs for those incentives?
And that's through the regional council, through the public transport program. They'll create a fare box, a fare style, a fare system as part of the process they're going through now.
And that'll come back to us through our rates, because we pay regional council rates.
I guess it's all part of the total PT package, absolutely.
Look, could I just, sorry, have you finished that second?
No.
Can I just, sorry to interrupt, can I just ask a question? I'm sensing a bit of a theme here. The email went out to elected members for feedback. Did you receive any feedback?
There was no feedback on this.
You didn't receive any feedback. So can I just suggest, without encroaching on elected members' rights to question any item on an agenda, that the time and opportunity to influence our submissions is at that stage? And I think that's the opportunity, not today. I just wanted to make that point. Councillor King? Sorry,
yeah, point of order.
If I may just say that because of the way the submissions are structured, it's very important that if you've got a view on any of these submissions, that you give that view early, because by the time it gets through for sign-off, you should have discussed all the issues, and we've reviewed that process twice now. So I endorse exactly what you've said. There's a process in place, and we should exercise our rights.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor King?
It does say in the report that up until this meeting, the Ministry of Transport can be advised of changes.
Yes, it does, but I think we can all see that best practice would be to engage in the process early to influence policy and direction of the council. So, but do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Point 8 on page 43. On line 2, to reduce the use of private cars as the preferred travel choice. So Hamilton City Council would like to see more emphasis identified in the final GPS in regard to promotion and education to reduce the use of the private car as a preferred travel choice. If transport is about choice, which I understand this report is about, why are incentives required?
Chair, the external strategy covers in great detail the inability of us as a city to meet the needs of everybody in a car. We need to get some people out of vehicles, otherwise we won't manage that congestion. We won't be able to build our way out of the car city approach. So the strategy that we're following through the external strategy is a balanced approach with alternate modes, and the emphasis on this particular point is about a bit more education for people. There's also concern in about cycling, about the safety of cycling, and some of it's perceived rather than actual. So it's a matter of the public understanding their choices and their mode of travel. In the PT discussions, even members around the table were saying that they don't know what they need to do to get on a bus. Some people have been on a bus, they're a bit worried about it. So there's a lot of engagement with the community across the board, and it may well end up with a cheaper journey for them and will result in less congestion on our roads, which improves our productivity, economic viability.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Millett?
No, that's been covered.
Thanks. Councillor Forsyth?
Just a quick comment around point 10 and a little bit of point 8 as well. That these the incentives and the potential or the attempts to change behaviour by all road users, but more importantly or more specifically the private vehicle user, is so that is still pointed out, so that we can be more productive, that we can have better value for money. So sort of by sharing the use of the road and encouraging and incentivising people to use different modes of transport, they're not necessarily going to have to be in a position to build more roads, which obviously is a heck of a lot of money, but it means that we can encourage people to use the roads, the existing infrastructure that we have, more efficiently over longer periods of time. And that might mean carpooling, which we have a council program and a website, etc., to encourage that kind of change of behaviour and cycling and pedestrian.
We haven't actually, you did speak to something, I think it was in support. We haven't got a motion on the table yet. Councillor Gallagher, do you have a question, or are you going to move?
I just have a commentary now, if I can do that. And I just think, I hear what you say around the need to respond, and obviously our public discussions we're going to have on our 10-year long-term plan in terms of the philosophy around, approach to transport and these issues.
Point of order, Madam Chair. I'm happy to help you by moving.
Thank you very much,
so that we
Councillor
can
McPherson.
enter the discussion that Councillor
Thank
Gallagher
you very
is
much,
continuing.
Councillor McPherson, and I will second it. Carry on, Councillor Gallagher.
So, I certainly hear the issue about needing to respond, and that's fair enough. However, I think in the context of the questions that Councillor King and others have raised, I think it's very obviously healthy that we do have this discussion in the public arena here, and obviously we will no doubt revisit some of these broad policy statement issues as we go through our 10-year plan, because that's obviously clearly going to basically inform the staff and our team putting this together. But I do think it's actually quite healthy to have this, and I think mostly all we'll do is you're right, we will tick the box, and mostly we certainly should be really focused on something we feel passionate about to pick it up and get our input in. But I think there will be some occasions where obviously we'll want to turn over a submission, and I realise it obviously in an ideal world this would come to us before the closure date, but I realise that it doesn't work obviously that way in most cases.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McPherson.
Thank you. I want to support comments of Councillor Forsyth, and it does irritate me a little bit that every time I hear the member for King's Cars talking about this issue, he reads, and I'm quoting from point 8 here, it talks about education to reduce the use of the private car as a preferred travel choice. It does not say to remove the use of the private car, and council policy has never said that we're trying to remove the use of the private car. It is attempting to create the balance that was talked about by the manager before, because at the moment the effect of transport systems in Hamilton, unfortunately, with the best efforts of people over the years, has been that effectively there isn't choice for many people. They have no choice but to use a private car. And council policy has attempted to improve the option that is available, the number of options that are available to people by creating the conditions where there is some choice about walking, cycling, public transport, carpooling, whatever like that, to slightly redress the imbalance that has been there for a long time. And if you may not be interested in the environmental aspects of it or the health aspects of it, but what about the financial aspects of it? And the point was made before, we can't build our way out of it. And I would add to that by saying we can't afford to build our way out of it by providing a bridge for every person in every car that would like to go on the road. It's not possible, and it's going to become increasingly less possible. So the more choices that are effective choices that we can provide for people in terms of transport into the future, the better we're all going to be. Whether you're travelling in a car or on a bus or walking, the better it will be for our bank balance and our pocketbooks. It's a very sound economic policy, as well as being a sound transport, health and environmental policy.
Thank you. Councillor Mallett.
Yeah, just countering that, I think that councillors need to accept the reality that for the huge majority of our community, the private car, travel by private car, is the most economical, most efficient, and it is the preferred choice. There is no doubt about that. So to suggest that you'd ever, what do you say? Eliminate the use of the private cars.
I didn't say that. It's a point of order. I said exactly the opposite. I said the problem with people is that they see the word reduce and they take it as meaning remove. So I said the opposite.
That was my point. You know you couldn't get away with the remove thing. But the reality is that for all of the huge majority of our community, private car is the preferred, the best way to be using the transport network. And it's actually for the people of probably some of the most vulnerable people. And I always use the example of the solo mum who's trying to work, trying to drop kids at school, pick them up after school, take them to footy practice, drop in and get some groceries. They can't do that on a bike. They can't do that on a bus, and they certainly can't do it walking unless they happen to be fortunate enough to live next door to a supermarket. So to the extent we start reducing the utility of using a private vehicle on the road, we are handicapping the majority of our community.
Thank you. No further speakers?
Yeah. I'd just like to say that we should be allowed to discuss policy in here, and I don't believe that I have a conflict, and I think bringing up issues I'm here as an elected member, not representing my private businesses, and I don't think that bringing it up is appropriate in the chamber. Things in our personal lives. I'm here as an elected representative, and I don't believe I have a conflict with this matter.
Thank you. No further speakers. That's been moved by Councillor McPherson, seconded by myself. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Mallett is against. My apologies. We were supposed to use the board.
Go to the board.
Done now. Thank you.
Andrew was looking forward to his
Andrew doing the walk again.
Right.
They would have used a cycle lane.
Item 10, page 45.
his car out and drive around.
Now this report,
I'll move.
moved by Her Worship,
I'll second it.
seconder, Councillor Tooman. You can take the report as read. Questions, Councillor Mallett?
I don't quite know what this all means. Taking it out as a management policy instead of a fencing policy. Can you just explain what we're trying to do? And I have read the report and I've been all through it.
So through the chair, a council policy is one that is held by governance and is a policy which is resolved by council. And management policy is one that is managed by the senior leadership team.
So it's a question of delegation where the authority lies.
Councillor Gallagher?
Just as I understand it, just I've got this really, this is not about our concern on wanting to minimise herbicides where humanly possible, that the public health. This is actually about a process. This is not about the content.
No.
This is about how we do stuff. That's the guts of it, isn't it?
That is correct. We're not proposing to change the content of the policy in the transition to management policy.
Thank you. Councillor Forsyth?
At this point, there's no policy change proposal which is across, but does that mean that there could be in the future as a management decision rather than a council resolution? That's the difference, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
So it's fine today, but tomorrow management could say, well, actually, no, we're going to save lots of money and we're going to use herbicides everywhere and we have no cover.
Yes, although I think there's added assurance in the text of the report there which identifies there are other applicable policies and guidelines, regional council and other standards, which actually govern that anyway. So there is actually little scope for us to go and do a carte blanche approach. When you read the regional council's rules and you read the standards, it actually doesn't leave a lot of discretion. I think there's comfort there for council is what I'm going to say.
Question, what would be let's take that situation where the current situation was changing, what would be the threshold where you would alert or engage with elected members? Let me give a very good example. Streets, trees, and it did Anglesey Street, and thanks to Councillor King's initiative, actually, we did the walk down the Anglesey Street. We chewed the fat on that as elected members with staff, and I think that was a productive process. I think technically that was sort of kind of delegated authority. It could have been done without referring back to the elected wing. And there was a decision that because that was of significance, it actually did come back to a standing committee. And I think all up, because those judgments were exercised, you probably got a better outcome than if it had been left with respect to the officers to do the stuff.
So what's the threshold? Where elected members are notified.
I just want to use that as a bit of an example, because you see, one doesn't contradict the other, but it seems to me there is a time and a place for good judgment to be made to seek elected wing's views.
And I think the word judgment there is the answer. It's the good judgment of the senior staff who are responsible for that area, and there are many examples of this across the organisation. I couldn't specifically say it is this particular threshold. It comes down to judgment.
Thank you. Councillor Mallett, you had a question?
On page 51, this is the actual herbicides. And weed minimisation talks about some standards, think what we'll do before we decide what to plant out plant. I see no mention there as a standard that we don't want plants that are going to wreck the pavements and things like that.
This is around. This is not around the type of plants that we plant. This is around the method we use to control weeds. So very different. So if you're talking about types of trees or shrubs or plants, it's a different matter altogether.
It says all plants and tree species to be planted by or on behalf of the council will be either natives or a species having the least production of viable weed and something else consistent with meeting the intended functions of the plantings in question, or will be species that can be managed with dispersion of weeds and that same word again, prapanulis or something.
So what's your question? Excuse me, what's
So
your question, Councillor Miller?
So my question is, and maybe I'm looking at the wrong policy, but this policy here talks about how we decide what plants we're going to plant on our streets, I think. And it says the only things that we need to worry about is we try and do natives, and we try and do things that don't propagate left, right and centre. What about also not trying to do things where the roots ruin the pavement and the roading, which is happening in a number of places?
So I'll just get Renee McMillan to see if she can respond to that.
Yeah, so if I can, so this policy focuses on what type of plants we plant to minimise weeds. So either natives or plants that have minimal seed dispersal. The species where Park Service has currently reviewing our species list that we do plant on public places, and that addresses the species to avoid.
So these are weed fighting
This is about weed.
trees and plants.
So these overlapping type policies, are they?
Overlapping with what, Councillor?
Well, I
Can't
guess
figure out
we're
what your
talking about
question is.
planting trees here.
Yeah.
Trees, plants and trees.
Look, I think what we're saying is we're proposing to delete that policy and move it across to management
Not
policy.
delete it, you're just handing the authority from one
Correct.
one group to another group. So
To a
it's not
management
deleting
policy.
it and not changing it all either, right?
No, so, and what we're saying is that to the general manager of community services, within that team, they will be, as Renee said.
The issue is, for me, that we have a number of pavements and roads, etc., and I've been spoken to by a number of residents, that their pavements are being ruined by tree roots and whatnot. When you'll all be aware of that. That's ultra vires what I'm talking about. This is about something totally different, is it?
So what Councillor Mallett wants to know is where do we have that particular discussion?
Yeah.
Because it's not here.
No, it's not through this
Is that
policy.
an infrastructure plan discussion?
Yes, so we are actually reviewing this at the moment. I'm not sure how that will be.
So someone can come back to you on that, but
Yeah,
it's not.
okay. Well, the issue, I guess, is that that policy, the one that's supposed to stop trees wrecking footpaths, is not working because trees
Okay,
are
so we're not going to
wrecking
discuss that here,
footpaths
though?
even as we speak.
Yes, but that discussion's not for this policy.
Correct.
And
We
this
will
item.
find the appropriate mechanism that information can be
Yep.
shared with council.
Okay.
Well, I don't want the information. I just want the policy
Okay,
to be
so thank
changed
you,
so that we
Councillor
don't do
Mallett.
that.
Councillor Mallett.
I'm on a roll here.
Yes, you are. You're arguing in the wrong
That's why
place.
she's trying to stop you.
Councillor McPherson. Oh, no, my apologies. Sorry, Councillor Forsyth is first.
Two things. Is this the opportunity where I can question whether natives are the priority plants to be planted?
No.
Not? Okay. Secondly then, my second question is, would you be prepared, Madam Chair, to take the recommendations separately? Because I'd like to vote for one but not the other.
Policy be deleted and I just have a little think about that. Can I come back to you? Councillor McPherson.
Yes, look, some of the aspects of this are laudable, like weed minimisation and vegetation management, but I'm concerned that there's no sort of statement talking about herbicide minimisation at sort of a high level. And I'm looking, for instance, code of it basically says, look, we're going to use it. There might be a few other things on the sides that we'll try. And that I'm not someone who opposes full stop the use of herbicides, but I am someone that thinks if we don't have to, if there's a better alternative, that's what we should be doing. And just to say in here that we'll trial, I think at the top of page 52 talks about alternatives will be continue to be investigated and trial. We've been saying that since my recollection about 2001 or two, somewhere around there anyway, for more than a decade, and we haven't advanced our vision at all in that area. Clearly, there is a growing disquiet, slowly growing, I'll grant you, disquiet in the community about the use of herbicides. Many people prefer to avoid them. I think most people are probably a bit like me. They will use them if they absolutely have to, but if there's another way, they'd like to. And I would like to see a statement in a policy like this that had a council vision saying our preference is not to use them, and we'll look at alternatives, or we'll use alternatives where appropriate. If not, then the default option might be herbicides, something along those lines. This basically says the default option is herbicides, and we'll do that according to all sorts of ISO and NZS strings of numbers, but it doesn't actually say we're trying to get out of that system. And I think, when you look at the organic horticulture movement and things like that, that area is growing where people try and avoid that area, but I don't think we're growing, our policy's growing as well. And I'm not looking for bans or outright changes, I'm just looking for somewhere saying where we would like to head if we can.
Through the Chair, if Council obviously support the recommendation that this moves to a management policy, that intent, and you will see it's actually halfway down on page 46, there is a section that refers to that is the inherent goal is to minimise herbicide use, and it's obviously a national aspiration. That can be factored into the management policy. So that would be certainly the intent of the management policy to have that statement wound into it.
Any further questions? Councillor
Just
Mull?
on the issue that Dave brought up then, has council made a determination that minimisation of herbicide is more important than getting the job done properly and the cost? There's a whole, not everyone is, using herbicides if they're demonstrably safe, minimising them is a ridiculous goal. Surely there are more
They
important
used to
things.
think 2, 4, 5
Okay,
is safe.
hang on.
The policy has its origins
You don't
through...
ban something
Okay,
until there's evidence, until there's evidence that it
can
is
we let the
dangerous.
GM answer, please?
The policy has its origins through annual plan submissions, and there has been topic of submissions from certain members of the public. And I think the policy is trying to strike that balance between what Councillor McPherson is talking about and what I think you're referring to, which is good practice management of weeds through both alternatives and the use of herbicides where appropriate, and the use of vegetation that minimises the need for herbicide use full stop. And that's what the policy is trying to find that balance. And what we're saying at the staff level is that there are other guiding principles and standards which provide that comfort for council, that it doesn't need to be in a council policy, it can be captured in a management policy as an operational item.
Thank you. Any further questions?
I'm happy to speak to my motion, but
Yes.
I think Councillor Forsyth asked if they could be separated out.
Yep, and I was going
And as the mover, I'm happy to separate them out. So I'm happy to do A and B.
Okay.
And that's seconded by, I'm not
So
sure who
seconded by
I'll
Councillor Tooman. Are you happy for that as well?
And then I'll move C.
Okay. Do you wish to speak to
I'm just going to
those?
speak to A, B and C.
Yeah.
In the last long-term plan, councillor spent probably 3 or 4 hours discussing herbicide use in the city. And we discussed it in the context of budgets and levels of service. And this is where we landed. And it was a compromise between the costs to go natural as possible and the use of herbicides when needed. And there was a strong flavour around the council table that, minimum use of herbicides is where we wanted to be. But there was a cost to that. And this policy reflected, I guess, the balance of that. So that's where that came from. Secondly, I think this is a very good example of, generating policies and paper for no good reason when there are standards and legislation, in fact, that governs most of the stuff. And I, for one, would like to see us not do that, because if there's some law and other stuff we can rely on, we should just do that. And thirdly, an answer to the question that wasn't able to be answered about what happens to planting on streets, etc., etc. Councillors will know that in the work programme for this committee, that will be coming to us. And I think that I've just checked and it's allocated around about November, about plants and what we plant on roads and beautification and streetscape, and it's part of that work. So we will be looking at that. And the fourth item I'd like to just say is that, in response to another question, is in the absence of it being answered, is that I think the trees that are causing some of the problems have been planted a long time ago, and today we have much, we look at things a little bit differently. But for me, it's very, very important that we maintain the green space and the green look of our city and plant lots of trees, but take into account some of the things that they sometimes cause. So I'm very happy that we're going to get rid of another 2 policies that we shouldn't have had in the first place.
Thank you. Any further speakers on the first part, which is A and B? No further, Councillor Wilson?
I'm going to vote on A and B first.
Yeah, we vote. Yeah, I'm just calling for speakers on A and B. No further speakers. I'll put that. Look, we'll just use on the voices. All those in favour for A and B.
Aye.
Those against. That's carried. And we'll put C. All those in favour?
Oh, I'd like to speak to C.
Oh, okay. Councillor Forsyth?
I don't know. I'm not so keen on transferring the rule making, I suppose, to management for herbicides. And if staff confirm that there wouldn't necessarily be any change in actions, etc., with the use of herbicides, neither quantity nor type, but I think it does leave things wide open in the future. And that's fourth to last bullet point, which does say that it should, however, be noted that due to level of service and budget reductions during the last long-term plan, it's not been practicable to minimise herbicide use, and that is probably one of the sticking points for me. At the end of the day, when budgets have to be met, it's much easier and cheaper to up the use of herbicides to get a result than it is to possibly use other less chemical. And I think that should stay at policy level for us as councillors.
Thank you. Any further speakers? No? All those in favour? Against?
No.
Oh, no. Oh, raise your hands against.
Can we go to the board?
I'll go to the board. Go to the board.
I just want to see.
Board ready? Right, cast your vote. This is for C.
Carried, Madam Chair, 8 votes for, 4 against.
Right, thank you. And we will break for 15 minutes for afternoon tea. Thank you. We're on. Right, thank you. Sorry about that late. There was a lot of good food for us to nibble on. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, item 11, the Hamilton Central Safety Plan on page 53. Welcome, Dee. Thank you. Now, I just need to clarify, councillors, and who worship, on page 56, which is attachment 1 to this report, that actually is a couple of pages out of the draft annual plan. What you were supposed to get was basically the business case and the mandate for why we put some money into the budget to address this issue. So you have that now. So take the report as read, but Dee, if you'd like to present it, would be great.
So yeah, through you, Madam Chair, apologies for the mishap with the attachment, but you've now got the correct document. So all I really wanted to touch on, you had the briefing last week around the City Safety Plan and a briefing from Julie Nielsen from the People's Project, but ultimately how the plan has actually come about is through those annual plan discussions in March and the Central City Safety Project proposal that was presented to elected members and the budget that was approved and signed off by elected members back in March. And that really was a response from council around how do we actually start to address some of the safety issues and the number of concerns that have been raised from the community and central businesses within the city area. So This plan has been developed in collaboration with a range of experts and central government agencies, including staff and elected members, through probably a 10-month process. So happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you. So questions? Councillor Mallet.
Who will be responsible for it then?
So council will lead that in conjunction with support from the police, obviously within the Hamilton Central City Safety Plan. The police have a key role in reducing crime, but ultimately when you read the plan itself, it does talk about council's role around the bylaws stuff. So we will take the lead in conjunction with the police and other key stakeholders.
Thank you. And I can't find it, but somewhere I went there were some actual metrics that things were going to be measured on. There were burglary rates dropping and stuff like that. What sort of, because with these sorts of things, this is a new initiative and the results can be measured. We just need to know what sort of reporting back we'll get, because there is a situation where, yep, it's working well, let's keep on doing it. No, it's not working well. A, because it's a useless program, or B, because it's not doing it right, or something like that. So there needs to be a line in the sand where we make a decision whether, no, it's not working, yes, it is working.
Do you have your plan in front of you?
I
On
do.
the desk, yep. If you look, open it up, there's it's in black and white, there's a list of goals, actions and success indicators to measure exactly what you've just said.
Oh, okay.
But Dee, if you
Yeah. So through you, Madam Chair, there is a monitoring and framework that's being developed at the moment. As we alluded to in the briefing last week, this is about trying to collect some really good baseline data for us to measure, put a line in the sand and actually measure the effectiveness of the plan. And certainly working closely with the police around aligning the boundary to be able to collect the type of information that is actually pertinent for us to actually measure the success of the plan.
Okay, thank you. And I do remember reading this now in the report. My concern is that the reporting back dates are 2017. That's 3 years from now. No. 2.5 years from now. Is that well, in my view, that's too long.
For you, Madam Chair, in my report it talks about 6 monthly reporting back to the Strategy and Policy Committee.
Councillor Miller, I think you read a reduction, one of the success indicators in the plan says a 25% reduction.
And that's the
give us a page number.
On 2000, and I'm looking at the plan, which is easier to read than in the actual agenda.
Okay.
It'll be page 63 of the agenda.
Yeah, that's where I got those dates from, 2015.
By 2027.
Yeah, 2017, yeah. See, my view is if they say there's reporting back prior to that, is that?
For you, Madam Chair, yes, the plan itself will be reported back 6 monthly. I might just allude to some of these dates are actually aligned to what the actual police priority targets are that are set by government. So by 2017, there is a 15% reduction in crime, and that's actually a police target.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Look, I must confess I'm a little confused. I think it's because in the most recent discussion about safer cities, we also spoke about bylaw enforcement officers, and as part of this review, we were going to review how our city safety ambassadors may evolve. And I'm still assuming that's correct. So out of this process, we may look at having some of these more, those who... Okay. I'm just a little confused about the quantum. $1 million was mentioned, including the monitoring of the cameras. Is this 314 on page 150 in addition included in that figure?
I might get the General Manager of Environmental Services to answer that.
The extra cameras and the extra patrol we put on, well, I think it was 178,000. That was in the approved budget. I think that figure is under the risk part of the report, and it's alluding to if council wants to actively carry out enforcement right across the city, that there's going to be an extra cost to put those patrols on, because the budget amount that's been approved was to focus on the CBD.
Okay, thank you. Could somebody just tell me then, what would be the budget for having both the city safety ambassadors working at night, the cameras monitored, and the bylaw enforcement officers? What would the annual budget be?
I'm not sure whether I can specifically answer that, but what I can say is the budget that we have had approved by the council is an extra 178,000, I think, for 172, and that's provided us the headroom to complete the review of city safe that's indicated in this plan. That will be how we can deliver the city safe services focused primarily across the CBD, which is the activity of our focus. And that will cover both cameras and the patrols and the nature of those patrols to get the most bang we can for the money we have available.
Councillor Millett.
Page 65, point number 15, there is a perceived problem. The problem's not perceived, is it? It is real. And sorry, and we've got that again on page 66, 31.
Sorry, we've gone on to another item, Councillor Millett.
Yeah.
We need to stay within the plan, which is prior to page 63. You're going into the determination report, we'll come to that.
Okay.
So save that question. Any further questions? Those being no further questions, do I have a mover? I'm happy to move that, and seconded by Deputy Mayor. So they're speakers. I'd like to say something. I know that this issue has been concerning the members of our community, particularly our business community, and I acknowledge Sandy Turner and all her work to the stage that it is. And I think, it's long awaited, and I acknowledge the incredible amount of time that staff and Her Worship the Mayor has spent over the last couple of years actually trying to come to a point in time where we had a plan that had some teeth, but that not only addressed the issues in the city around safety for everyone, and that definitely includes safety for the vulnerable as well. I think the plan says that we're taking action, but it also says that we care, and looked all around the world pretty much, and nationally, that this is a plan where everyone has finally come to the table, and I think that that's a really great, that's a great win for the city, and I'm looking forward to having a safer CBD. So look, thank you again to everyone involved, particularly Your Worship the Mayor, Dee, Sandy, and all the partners and of this and staff that have worked beavered away on this great plan. So any other speakers? Right, so that's been moved by myself, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. We'll go to the board.
I was waiting for Andrew to get
Buttons. Buttons.
Carried unanimously, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Right, we'll move on to, I'm losing my voice. Item 12. Now this is linked to the safety plan. This is the determination for a bylaw to support that plan. So I'm going to move that. Gosh.
I'll second.
Second, Councillor Wilson. Thank you. It's on the table. We'll take the report as read. Are there any questions? Councillor Mallett?
This is the one I jumped on a bit early on before. Page 65 and page 66, number 15 and number 31 both use the word perceived problem and perceived problem. The problem is real. So was there any reason for putting perceived in there? You're scared of saying it?
No, the evidence that we have is anecdotal evidence rather than hard facts and data. So it's better to say a perceived problem because we can't actually quote exact numbers of however many people have been approached by people begging or all those sorts of things.
Thank you. Any further questions? No? So that's... Sorry, Deputy Mayor?
We go back to Councillor Miller. Would we not, under 15, agree that if you remove perceive, the next sentence supports that with anecdotal evidence? It's just the perception weakens it. It is real.
I think it's a bit of a mixture though, isn't it? It's a mixture of perceived and does it matter? I mean, it's a word in a report. Doesn't if this is the determination for whether we need a bylaw or not.
The resolution.
Yes.
You'd rather have a bylaw for an actual problem than a perceived
Well, it
problem.
is an actual problem. So that's been moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wilson. Speakers, Councillor Mallett.
Sorry, just one other question. 48 in the risks. It talks about a bylaw covers the whole city may raise expectations from the... So I guess this is the risk that because we've got a bylaw, people will think things will get well straight away. But then it talks about this could require the council to deal with the youth gang issues and other youth on the streets as well as a type of nuisance issues. What are you talking about?
Sorry, Councillor, through you. The risk was mentioned that because the active enforcement is perceived to be the CBD area, that other issues out in the suburbs and creating around nuisance, people could perceive that the council has authorised active enforcement out in those areas, and a lot of the youth issues are very much nuisance as opposed to a lot of crime per se. So that the risk was listed there just to let you know that the issues are not necessarily confined to CBD, and they are expressed in the suburban areas for that enforcement to be.
So you're saying that the actual issues, which often in the CBD are nuisance issues, a person sleeping on the street is a nuisance, they're not breaking the law, or?
Sorry, again, the bylaw that we were looking at was looking at nuisance behaviours.
Yeah. Okay, so you're just concerned that someone out in Enderley says, geez, you're looking after CBD, you're not looking after us, why don't you come out and stop these gang guys? Is that the risk you're alluding us to?
That's the risk that I'm alluding you to. There could be a perceived perception that should be.
So people might think the council has got itself a police force, quote unquote, that can look after all of us, rather than what this particularly is designed as the CBD. So you're raising expectations. You think it could raise expectations?
I think, Councillor, that I wouldn't have used those words, but we're talking about raising expectations.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's been moved by myself. We're going to put it on the board. Seconded by Councillor Wilson. 8, that the report be received. A, that the report be received. B, the council determine a bylaw is the most appropriate mechanism. And there's just a change to C, that council resolve that a statement of proposal be reported to the council meeting to be held 25th of September 2014. Is that okay with the seconder? And just alerting committee that because we are deferring the statement of proposal to council meeting, that the next item is null and void. So it's been moved by myself.
We don't need, we're not
We
going
don't
to deal
need
with
to,
those.
no, because we're moving
So
it
if
to
we've got a
council.
passionate speech, we should do it now.
Well, no. Passionate speech? Okay, well, you can talk to this.
And just through the chair, the effect of that second portion, the statement proposal would still have been ratified by council on the 20th of September, so it has no impact on the timeframes for the consultation of the bylaw or implementation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry,
So,
Madam Chair, just for clarification.
Yes.
So as a result of item 12, we won't now need item 13, is that what you're
That's
saying?
correct.
Got a question over here?
Are you taking discussion or?
Well, I'm taking debates, but I was just waiting
Sure,
for
sure,
Councillor Wilson. You okay with that? Yes. Okay. So debate, Councillor Gallagher.
Yeah, I just perhaps picking up on the issue of the suburbs, and obviously this recommendation to council is, if you like, part of the toolbox that dovetails into the Central City Safety Plan. And just bringing to your notice that in the October meeting of this committee, the Community Forum will be sending you a recommendation with regard to further discussion around the role of community policing in light of the very interesting briefing we had from the regional commander. And obviously what we will want to bring up for further discussion will be, that whole issue of partnership. So we're not, again, we talk about silos, we're not working in isolation. This bylaw is not just our issue, it dovetails in with the New Zealand Police and all the other agencies. And obviously, just as one wants to have safety as part of that applies anywhere in the city, so it is about partnership. So, dare I say it, there may be some learnings from this particular Central City Safety strategy, right, with all the different bits in the toolbox, as we would say, that will definitely apply to other parts of our city. And I think it also does highlight for us, and I think we had a really good closed session the other day with the People's Project and other groups, as the Central Business Association, and it highlights for us that we're, as part of this, going to start refining some of our operational activities in the CBD, particularly in terms of the role and training around our safety patrols. But it also highlights for us that we, as an elected members, need to have ongoing close communication at this level. And I recognise that will happen at the Mayor's office, and that is good. But certainly I think by our regional commander to come and talk with us and engage with us in the community forum or in this committee, for example, is something that we should carry on with. Because believe you me, the allocation of resourcing within the New Zealand Police and the way they do it is obviously going to be quite critical in the success or otherwise of this project.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Any further debate?
Look, I just want to make some brief comments. I've often, over the years in local government, reflected on the fact that we have bylaws. And I think many elected members have enjoyed the therapeutic process of feeling they've participated in improving safety, etc., by passing a bylaw. But in fact, we've never had the courage, I believe, to set about enforcing it. And I think, as I've seen the deterioration of our city in terms of begging, defecating in public places, sleeping in the middle of the city, I've realised that this council would have to do something. And I'm so pleased that we're finally working our way towards, hopefully, engaging in a proactive process of actually policing our bylaws. I accept philosophically some around this table may say that actually should be the sole duty of a national police force, and of which I actually subscribe to that point of view. But I think it's fair enough to say that year upon year, the police in this country have been stretched beyond their resources, and they have had to prioritise, and the type of antisocial behaviour that has evolved has not been and is not likely to be their priority in the next few years, which leaves this void. And the void has to be filled. And I'm of the opinion, and this will be controversial, that if you are homeless in this country, it's either a choice of lifestyle or mental health. And in fact, if it's mental health, it's a reflection of a failed health system. Government will have to take some responsibility for that.
Or the DHBs.
of which I am happy to say, so must the DHBs, which is an instrument of the Ministry of Health, that Councillor McPherson will rightly know because in fact he sat on an early DHB. He'll recall, I'm sure he will recall, the particularly prescriptive nature of what the DHB can do. The reality is I want to send a signal to those who choose to live on our streets in the city of Hamilton, while recognising their Bill of Rights. I have some rights under the Bill of Rights. Shopkeepers have some rights under the Bill of Rights. And I should be, as should every citizen in Hamilton, be able to walk up and down the main street and not see somebody defecating, not see somebody sleeping on the footpath. I shouldn't have to have the many calls that I have from people who own businesses that say that people aren't coming to my business because they are scared of the antisocial behaviour. So I'm apologising in advance to those who are politically correct, who feel that we should all hold hands and sing Kumbaya together. Actually, what we need to do is take a tougher approach. And I want to take a tougher approach. And I will sail as close as I can sail to the issues of the Bill of Rights while sending a message, if you want to live homelessly, don't do it in this city, because we need to change, and we're going to have people who will come along and tell you you're in breach of our bylaw. And I look forward to that day.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. There being no further speakers, the motion is up on the screen, so we'll vote using the buttons.
Been convinced by Councillor Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, staff. Right, another bylaw. Item 14, page 89, the Hamilton City Traffic Bylaw. Review, this is a determination report as well. Oh, hang on, which page? Yeah, page 89. Thanks. Hi, Liz and Robin. You can take the report as read. We'll just go straight to questions. Well, actually, Robin, you might want to very succinctly tell us why we're reviewing this bylaw when we reviewed it last year.
So the traffic bylaw in its current form, via the schedule, has to be reviewed through this process every time we make any changes on road. So that may be putting in turn bans, putting in cycle lanes, those sorts of traffic restrictions. So we have done changes to our network, which we need to incorporate within this bylaw, and hence that's why it's coming through this process again. One of the changes that we are proposing to the bylaw format, like creation of registers, is to try and get away from the need to go through this committee and have that amount of detail going through.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mallett.
Robin, what are the changes that are triggering this? You said we have to go through this process every time we do changes in our roading network.
Yes.
So there are some changes in our roading network. Yes. Are they detailed in this report?
They are included.
Are they the pages and pages and pages that behind?
Yes, they are part of that. They are specifically highlighted as being.
They are tracked changes. Yep.
Have you read them?
And they're covered off in the policy.
Gave up last night.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. On page 19, the reasons for this review are, there's just a couple that I've got to highlight through and just I need to have them explained. Address changes to parking on berms by submitted 3. Yeah, what did we do? What did we change? What's the change we've done? So 13, first bullet point.
So that we go through in detail in the next report. That's the
pages and pages and pages.
The key purpose of this report is to determine that a bylaw is the most appropriate method for managing traffic restrictions.
And isn't a bylaw the only method under the Act?
Yes.
Yep.
Right, okay.
I'm happy to answer that now if you like.
Sure.
Or we can answer it in the next one. So we had a request through the last year's bylaw review process, in Old Farm Road in particular. There's sports fields there.
Yes,
They want to be able to park on the boom. As the bylaw is currently worded, they're not allowed to. That boom was typically constructed to accommodate parking, so it's still grass, but it's got a greater base underneath it. So what we're recommending through this process is that the bylaw be changed slightly to allow parking on booms where we sign it, and that would be at locations where it's appropriate.
Thank you. Another one I couldn't understand was update of schedules to reflect on-road changes that have taken place over the last year. So what, just give us an example of what those things are.
They are things like right turn bans, putting in new cycle lane facilities, all of those sorts of things.
The second to last bullet point, and this might get Dave going, I think, to consider 50 max vehicles in Schedule G following the council. Is that I vaguely remember this coming up, Phil might have done, someone did it where we delegated our authority to allow people to bring big trucks down some roads.
Yes, so this is a way of incorporating those maps into a public document. So the process has gone through, we're just trying to give it a good time.
Review the Garden Place pedestrian mall. That's just here, right?
Yes.
And what do we do there?
So,
what has happened? These things have happened, eh?
no,
Oh.
no, these are the things that we want to address the changes to the bylaw. So currently there is parking occurring fairly much just outside the building here. As part of the way that area is set up. That is legally part of the pedestrian mall, Garden Place pedestrian mall area, as opposed to being within the shared zone. So the Garden Place pedestrian mall says that there is no parking at any time unless you've given a permit by council. So that caters for the people who are setting up stalls and for those sorts of things. To do a change to the pedestrian mall, there is a requirement to go through a special consultative process. More onerous than going through a bylaw process because it has to have a 1 month appeal process that then allows any appeal process to go through to the Environment Court. So what staff are proposing is that we change the extent of the pedestrian mall to make it slightly shorter, move to the east, and increase the area of the shared zone. The shared zone currently has no parking allowed within it, but with the proposed changes to the bylaw, it would enable changes to that shared zone restrictions to be done through a council resolution.
Do these things go? Sorry, do these things go through some sort of consultation process?
Yes.
So this isn't our first go at this.
This
isn't our last go. I mean, sorry.
No, this is just starting the process.
Okay. And then, just on page 91, thank you for that. On page 91, clause 27, I just can't understand this. The last sentence says, without a bylaw in place, there are no internal mechanisms that would be able to adequately deal with managing the traffic systems addressed in the current bylaw. By definition, we say without a bylaw in place, you're then saying, but there is a current bylaw. That sentence is not grammatical or something, it just doesn't make sense.
First part of the process with a bylaw is a determination report to determine whether the issues that you've got should be dealt with by a bylaw. So we have to then look at what options are available to us. One option is that we could not have a bylaw. If we didn't have a bylaw, then we wouldn't be able to...
So if I rewrote this to say...
No, Councillor Millett.
Hold on, sorry, yep.
Come on.
Go on, keep going.
So the staff recommendation is that if we didn't have a bylaw, basically a bylaw is the only way that we can manage those traffic issues. If we didn't have a bylaw, then we wouldn't be able to. So while it is an option, it is not a recommendation.
It's not really an option.
Not really.
So could you just rephrase that last sentence so I can understand it? If there wasn't a bylaw in place,
then we wouldn't be able to deal with the issues that we're currently dealing with the bylaw we have now. So it would revert back to basically having no ability to manage traffic.
It's like saying if I don't have an apple, I don't have the problems of having an apple. Sort of, isn't it? Which doesn't make sense. Okay, well, if you can, I just can't understand that sentence.
I think what it's saying, if I may, is that we currently have a bylaw, but we've got some problems that can't be fixed with the current bylaw, so we need to review it. That's it, isn't it?
Okay.
That's
Is that what it says?
Option 1 is to revoke the bylaw.
She would have said yes if it was. So
Option 1 is to revoke the bylaw. What that statement says is that we have a current bylaw that deals with issues. We have issues that need to be dealt with better. But by revoking the bylaw, we wouldn't be able
issues that need to be considered.
We have other issues that need to be considered that aren't being dealt with properly under the current bylaw.
Yeah.
So we have options. We can revoke the current bylaw and not have a bylaw at all. Option 2 would be to review and update the bylaw by amending it. And option 3 is to revoke the current bylaw and make a new bylaw. So option 1, which is the one we're currently discussing, is to revoke the current bylaw. So that statement is saying that the issues that are covered under the current bylaw could not be dealt with adequately without a bylaw. So revoking the current bylaw does not deal with the new issues and would leave us with more issues by not having a bylaw.
Councillor McPherson, questions?
Just a quick question arising out of one of Councillor Mallett's earlier one. Number 13, page 90, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, bullet point down. Have we currently got no legal way of allowing 50 max vehicles in the city on city roads as opposed to state highways?
I need to clarify with that with Chris, but I believe that the process is in place, but this provides a home for those maps, so it is easily found. All heavy vehicle prohibitions are clearly and visibly available.
What's the point of having this there if we've got something now that allows them?
This map sets out where they can go, so it reinforces the report that came through to this committee. Was that last round? Sorry.
I'm trying to get a straight answer whether there's a legal way of them being there now or not. Because I don't understand why we need to include it in here if it's already legal.
Look, I wasn't at the meeting where this was decided, but my understanding is that it was a request from the committee to, as Robin said, so the legality of the 50 max is delegated to us now under the discussions we've had, but this was an opportunity to publicly present those issues, so to put it in a schedule that was publicly available and people could see our thinking. So that's my understanding is the request.
So it only relates to the areas where they're allowed to go, not the fact that they will, that they are allowed. You get what I mean?
Correct. I think, yes. Yeah. So somebody, Joe Public, could look at the bylaw and he could see where the vehicles were not allowed.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Councillor King, question?
Page 142. And then if you go over the page to page 144, I presume...
No, you're moving
that's
again.
The next report.
That's the next report.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks. Any further questions on the determination report, Your Worship?
I'm just asking whether this can be delegated to staff instead of a subcommittee.
We did seek,
No.
we seek
No,
legal
no.
advice.
No, the answer is no. So that's in relation to the register that will be coming through.
That's the establishment of the subcommittee.
No, I'm talking about the job of it is to do with the registers. That's what it's
Councillor Pascoe, question?
Yes, my question may overlap both reports, but it just centres on getting some clarity around Garden Place. In terms of reading both these reports, I reached, and I may be wrong on this, the conclusion that currently it is against the bylaw to park in Garden Place where those cars angle park out there. And I suspect that that's arisen as a result of the configuration of where those flower pots are and so forth. Do we need a bylaw to correct that position, or could we just simply put signs up to say that this is a no parking area.
Guess what we're hoping to do is open this up to a position where we can have some discussion about how that space is used, because we have a wide range of desires for that area being expressed to us. So some parties are fully supportive of no parking at any time.
Which is what it stands at the moment.
That is the current legal status.
Yep.
But we have a lot of people who would like to see some parking. Some would like to see that being 5 or 10 minute parking. Others would like it to be a longer term parking.
Thank you.
That's all I had on my list for questions. Right, so the recommendation is on page 90. Mover to that. Sorry, hang on just one moment. What's the advice on setting up the subcommittee? We're doing that now? New subcommittee established and managed bylaw. No, not until after the bylaw is done, yeah. Okay, so a mover for this recommendation on page 90.
Is under part E, a new subcommittee, is that a subcommittee of council or a subcommittee of?
It'll be a subcommittee of this committee.
Yes.
Yeah. And we'll deal with the members on that for when we've gone through this process, when we've gotten to the end.
Okay, so
we don't need to deal with that
subcommittee of this committee.
Yeah.
My view is this would be captured on our action list.
I'll move, Councillor.
You'll move? Thank you, Councillor Tooman. And seconded by Councillor Young. Thank you. Any discussion?
Sorry, I'm just sorry, Angela, I'm just getting some advice from staff that they...
The subcommittee also addresses parking, so
yep.
It needs to be addressed now rather than at the end of the bylaw process.
What do you mean, what needs to be addressed now?
So
it's on here, I'm just saying the members of the subcommittee don't need to, are you telling me that otherwise, are you?
This would be the opportunity to address who is on the subcommittee, as it's not addressed in the it's not addressed in the statement of proposal report.
Are you saying that we need a subcommittee pretty urgently because there are things outstanding that need decisions?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, Your Worship.
And I expect the democracy manager would has probably already addressed this with you, but I think it would require the council to set up the subcommittee. So I would have thought this would. Am I correct? I may be wrong, but I'm assuming you've already given advice.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think a committee is well within its rights to establish a subcommittee. So Strategy and Policy Committee could establish a subcommittee of Strategy and Policy Committee. As indeed the Mayor can establish a committee or a subcommittee.
I just wanted to make sure that was correct. I'd assumed you'd given me advice.
Right, so...
so that we're clear, we're establishing the terms of the actual bullet point terms of reference that we have. I know what this is designed to do. Where's the terms of reference?
Look, you're absolutely right. Look, I'm aware that there are some terms of reference that have been drafted.
I wonder whether we bring that through to council meeting. I think that's a gap that needs to be addressed.
So I think could I suggest that you agree and you may move in principle to establish the subcommittee.
Yes.
Chair report further on the terms of reference, and I suggest that probably at full council, unless you've got some people have been thought through in terms of who sits on this one.
Thank you,
just to be helpful.
Councillor. Very good point. So sorry, who moved this? Councillor Tooman, are you happy for E to have that the members be confirmed, the members and the terms of reference be confirmed at the 25th
Council meeting, 25th.
of September council meeting? 25th of September 2014 council meeting. And Councillor Young,
Just item C, I'm a bit confused on what that.
so this is the determination report.
Yeah, the council resolved the statement of proposal, so we're doing that. We've resolved.
Yeah, but we're recommending that.
All right. As considered, not be considered, as considered at strategy and policy.
we're considering it as considered.
Where are you? Oh, C.
Or not.
Council resolve is different proposal.
This is your recommendation for the full council.
C is correct.
B considered,
How
yeah.
is B considered?
So that's the next report. C and D refer to the next report that's on the item agenda. So that's.
The language is correct.
It's meaningless like it is up there now.
Democracy manager, is the language correct or incorrect?
No, Madam Chair, this is the language that's being presented by staff to this committee to consider. So it will need some adjustment to go now from this committee through to the council. So the reference, that will need to change slightly.
C and D.
C and D are referring to the next report, which is on the agenda, and that is the wording in the determination report, and referring that it needs to be a statement of proposal, which is the next item. E, I think, is what we're saying will need to come back to council in terms of the terms of reference and the membership.
So let me just ask a question on process. In a determination report, and look, I'm of the view, and a strong view that determination reports shouldn't come the same time as statement of proposals, but that's my personal view. Is it a legal requirement under the Act that a decision that is for a determination include those two items which then say that we resolve a statement of proposal, blah, 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 given that the statement of proposal is the very next item? Or can we get rid of those? C and D.
I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to try and legalise, but my understanding is that we do need to resolve that a statement of proposal be considered.
Well, then it should read that committee resolve. We can't ask council to resolve something that's happening here.
Yeah.
True? Okay.
Yes, that would be okay.
Can we change C and D council to committee, please?
And it should be B too, then, shouldn't it?
D should be changed.
We are recommending up to the council, though.
Yeah, but if it's to do with the next item,
Yeah.
then that's all it is.
Yeah. All right, so...
You know, and also point E, the new subcommittee to manage, just the definition of the word the verb manage. A new subcommittee is to be established to manage traffic bylaw recommendations. Does that mean make, approve, recommend? Manage isn't the right word, I don't think. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, manage. Is
the wrong word.
Consider.
Well, what are they? Do they have the authority to approve them, or are they just recommending them to this committee?
No, it'll be approval.
Okay, put approve.
Consider and approve.
So that means we've delegated
authority to that subcommittee. That's correct.
Consider and approve.
So would Councillor
consider and approve.
Councillor Tooman, this is your motion. Are you happy with to consider? Yes, it is.
It's an overview, shall we say, of what's happening in that area, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So
But it's
I don't
decision-making.
really see an issue with managing it or overviewing it or.
Look, I don't
Play
have
on
a
word,
view.
really.
I don't have a view.
I'm
So
sorry.
hang on, no, just wait, please. The CE has something to say?
I'm just saying that the terms of reference in the membership, the terms of reference when you approve them, but council will deal with the detail of what it's authorised to do.
Yep. Terms of reference will sort it out. So this is, look, if you're not happy, Councillor Mallett, then move an amendment, but this is Councillor Tooman's motion. Councillor Tooman, I'm going to put the motion, if you're happy with this.
You'll put it.
And Councillor Young as a seconder. Okay, so that motion is on the table. Is there any debate?
Well, I move an amendment simply that the E be changed to a new subcommittee be established to consider and approve, subject to that being what it is supposed to do. Because I don't think manage is an appropriate verb.
So you want to change your amendment, look, Councillor Tooman, are you happy to change to manage to consider and approve?
But hang
hang on, just let me ask him.
Okay.
and then you don't need
It
an
seems to be
amendment.
the word manage which is holding everything up here.
Yeah,
Which is holding everything up here.
yeah.
It's review, overview, whatever the case may be. I'm quite relaxed.
The subcommittee will be considering decisions and will be approving or not approving. Hang on. So, and that's what you want? Consider and approve? Is that?
Consider and approve, yeah.
Can I just speak to the importance of the word approve? Approve has a very specific meaning. It means they are this subcommittee is the final arbiter on these changes, which is significant, as opposed to manage might mean write recommendations and pass them on to another subcommittee or report back on how well they're going.
Can I just say that, I mean, the reality is the terms of reference will be where ultimately this is all defined. I think you could just, relating to traffic bylaw, they don't have the word manage. The terms of reference will be where you actually agree what their powers are.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you want a documented record of the will of the council. Not the council, this S&P committee. What the concern, and that's what I was trying to get across. It doesn't have to be approved if that's not the will of what this committee wants. But I thought the flavour was that people wanted this to be managed, but approved. I beg your pardon. Wanted it to be a final decision maker. And now, if that's not right, then I'm happy to be corrected if that's
The
not
intention
right.
of staff is
So the recommendation is that this subcommittee approves.
It's important that the wording's right, otherwise your push lawyers will take you to court and your tickets will be chucked out.
Okay, so, all right, we're just going to put this then. So Councillor Tooman is happy to accommodate those changes, but if you're not happy with that, Councillor Mallett, then signal an amendment. That's been moved by Councillor Tooman, seconded by Councillor Young. So any debate?
Just be careful. You know, it's my wording at that moment.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
So there being no debate, I'll put the motion. Go to the board. Martin. Oh, Andrew, sorry.
We need you.
All we have to do is go
Send the
up.
whips out.
I'll do it for you.
Councillor Gallagher. Pasco.
What have I done?
Anytime now.
I don't know what you've done, but you're holding us up.
I'll push it again.
We are so high tech.
Hey, should we do it again?
I might pay to reset, I think.
What happened to it?
Jude, was that captured?
There was an abstention.
Hands. All those in favour?
Oh, hands, that's
please
good.
raise your hand.
It's quite high tech.
That's novel.
Councillor Ward. Carried unanimously, Madam.
All right.
Now the board's clashing.
Page 107, item 15. So this is the statement of proposal for the bylaw.
Correct.
So definitely take the report as read. Right, any questions or anyone willing to move? I just had one question. I probably do know the answer, but in the statement of proposal, you're covering off the 7 issues for the reason why we're reviewing the bylaw, and the submission form is engineered sort of around that, basically. How are you going to manage, because it's a 27-page bylaw, all the other issues that members of the public may want to raise? What's the process for that?
I think our experience in the past is people are able to articulate any other issues, such as the booms which came through last time. So, and we can always follow back up with people if we clarify.
Okay, but it doesn't mean they're out of scope, does it? Right. Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Your Worship?
Madam, if I may, it's really important that the public understand what this bylaw is and that it is not a bylaw about speed. So I am assuming that the engagement and communications is sorted and clear.
We have got a communications plan and we are working through ensuring that it's obvious that this is the traffic bylaw that does not include speed limits. It should also be noted that there's 2 errors in the report. It's on page 144 and 162 in the registers. There are notes, there's a section on notes in those 2 registers that shouldn't actually be there.
So on page 144, down the bottom of the terrible visual,
yep.
It says note. None of that should
None
be
of that
there.
should be there. That's
None of
the
that
regis-
text. 1,
That's
2,
the
and
register
3.
for the pedestrian mall,
Okay,
and there's also a register for freedom camping that should not have that.
Okay, and the other error
162.
on page 162. And is that the same under the visual?
Yep, under the.
All of the 1, 2, 3 points under note text shouldn't be there. Okay, thank you.
Just following up on what I was saying.
Sorry, Worship. Yep.
That I think it's, the unfortunate thing is that both of those bylaws have, the same sort of word in the title. People get very confused. But I am asking that people give some thought to using language that would make it clear rather than using the bylaw name. Just be a thought.
Thank you. Questions, Councillor McPherson?
Yes, on page 155, there's a lovely map which is impossible to read, but I can see the colour of the electronic version. So someone has to do something about the copying nature here. But I can see that there's yellow and red lines. I can see the red lines of the state highway network, and I understand why they are listed as HT through routes. But the green line, what's on the legend? What does it say? It's impossible.
Yes. So we have picked up, unfortunately, somehow through Info Council, it's managed to do some very funny things to all our pictures. That green line is for over-dimensioned routes. So that's been in place for a long time, and that's primarily around getting things like houses and those sorts of things through. That route has been set up to accommodate that and has been used for some.
Okay, so you're saying that's nothing to do with the HT
It's nothing.
max
It's
of
nothing.
50
No,
megs?
it's purely to do with those loads that can't be broken down.
So the green is a route for that. So what I can't understand then is why you need the green route when the red route, state highway route, takes you exactly to the same place.
It takes you to the same place, but there are that sort of thing which don't allow those things such as houses. Literally, they do take houses through those routes. In the longer term, when the Waikato Expressway Hamilton section goes through, we would expect that that's going to be able to cater for them. But at the moment, we have to work around structures.
Okay, good, thanks.
Any further questions?
It's just a little thing. How do delivery vehicles deliver to Garden Place? Deliver goods at the moment? Do they get a permit here?
So
into the shops inside Garden Place?
Yes. So there is the ability for management of the bollards, the automatic bollards. So either the property owner, so property owners or the business owners all have the ability to raise and lower those bollards. So they can either do it on behalf of somebody, or the person delivering can ring up the main council number 24/7 and get those bollards lowered.
So, because it clearly says they're not allowed in there without a permit, so by having a key, does that constitute a permit?
Yes.
Right. Thank you.
Madam Chair, one question on page 141. We talked about this earlier on, about the parking restriction which is currently on the shared zone out here. My understanding, and I think it was all explained previously, is are we looking at changing this to having vehicles parked in there now?
What we're trying to do is set up a process so that by becoming a shared zone, that area, we will then be able to go out and have discussion, if council wishes, on how that area is used. So currently,
No parking.
it's no parking because it's part of the pedestrian mall. If it is something that council wishes to be able to change, with some, you wouldn't expect, frequency of weekly, but it may be that in a year or two's time we might like to change it because of the way the city's changing. By being incorporated within a shared zone, it gives us that greater flexibility.
Then on page 162, freedom camping. My understanding of this is you can't put your camper van in Garden Place or on Sept Square, is that correct?
Correct.
But you can park anywhere else for up to 3 days?
Correct.
So I can actually get my camper van and shift out of a time limit parking area and park there for 3 days before having to move, is that correct?
It's time
As long as I've got a self-contained van for waste and all that sort of stuff. As long as I'm outside a time limit area, I can stay there for 3 days, is that correct?
As long as you're also not causing a nuisance.
Yep.
Yeah. This is done under the restrictions that we have under the Freedom Camping Act.
Councillor Toomey, are you planning a holiday in your camper van outside?
Victoria Street.
He's going to loan it to the homeless.
It's just that I can see some issues with it, whereas you can't leave a caravan on a road for more than a period of 14 days under the Land Transport Act, and you can camp there for 3 days, no issue.
that is not any change to what the current bylaw states.
Question?
Full consultative procedure in 10 for Garden Place, is that where we go out for 3 weeks or 4 weeks and ask for feedback? And yeah. Thank you.
Councillor McPherson?
Yeah, again, on page 157, I have a map here, looks like it was printed with a 1990 inkjet printer and then dropped in water, and I can't read a darn thing except where the railway lines are.
So that was the one that we dropped.
Yeah. So I can see some green splotches that look like maybe measles starting up or something. Am I to take it that the green splotches delineate where 50 max vehicles can't go? Or I'm looking at the words at the top.
Yes, so the 50 max is, the way 50 max is set up is that to where they can't go. So they are bridge structures such as, they are structures where 50 max can't go. So that's Puketi,
Yeah.
Pity or equivalent.
I get the picture. So basically anywhere there's no green bits, right, vehicles can go, by inference.
Yes, I'm assuming it's not the green parks, of course, but yes, all other roads.
Yep. So a 50 max vehicle can go into someone's cul-de-sac street where the houses are, because there's probably 700 of them that haven't got the green on.
Yes, and that was worked through with that committee report.
Yeah. So people can expect that if someone's a driver of a 50 max vehicle, that they can park it probably on the verge, or we do something about that on that side, outside their house in a residential street.
For 1 hour.
That's covered.
No, for as long as it's not time restricted for 3 days.
Trucks in 1 hour.
There's a specific requirement around heavy vehicles in residential areas.
Okay, so they can drive down, deliver
Deliver,
the resident,
yes.
50 max one. Are we sure that every residential street that's not blocked out by the green there then is protected from damage to the road by the overweight? Because it's one thing, the turning issue with different sorts of axles and things spreading the load and things like that, but if the vehicle's stationary, that's clearly a higher weight per wheel, per tyre on the road than the old 42 ton vehicles.
I can't answer that, sorry, I'm not an expert in
So the reason I'm asking this is I had thought the debate was over whether we would allow them on certain roads going into our industrial areas and things like that for delivery reasons, that sort of thing. Not almost everywhere in the city, which this allows. That's a whole quantum leap more than we ever discussed.
Can I just clarify? So, no, Chris, stay standing. You should be in the hot seat here. We can't change the policy at the moment on that. This change is just in red on that, isn't it? 157. The change to the bylaw.
The change is incorporating the maps. There's no changes proposed to the map.
And no changes proposed to the maps. The changes are that we haven't yet included the maps.
No, we were told that the last time this was discussed, that the place to look at the specific areas that these big heavy vehicles would be allowed was time when this came up. Because we were looking at the general issue, we weren't looking at an actual schedule of roads at that time. And this was where we were going to get the schedule. So this is like by inference a schedule. It's everything that's not marked is therefore in.
Yep, so my understanding, that was the discussion last time, that council has effectively opened up the whole transport network to 50 max, remembering that 50 max are pro forma vehicles, so the axle loadings are sort of no more than the 44 tonne. So your example of a 50 max coming down a cul-de-sac and probably be as likely as a current 44 tonne truck coming down that cul-de-sac, which would be fairly unlikely, I would have thought. What the discussion was about was giving visibility there, because there are certain structures that we said will not cater for the extra loading because it's about the spans of the bridges rather than the load on the pavement. So this was, the discussion was about being very clear about the places they couldn't go because structurally it's inadequate, and we've got those in our delegation agreement with NZTA who are doing the 50 max. We've got the structures in there that they can't go. This is just reinforcing and reflecting the decisions we've made in the delegation agreement.
So 50 max trucks could be seen on anywhere, including the cul-de-sacs, which are often used by heavy trucks for delivering of construction materials, for instance.
Yep, that was the decision council made last time in the delegation, remembering the pro forma trucks in the 50 max that have no higher axle loadings than the legal trucks now.
Reserved by TUI Beer
Okay, thank you. So no more questions. So the recommendations on page 108. Do I have a mover? I'll move. And a seconder, please.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I did want to ask a question. So we're going to hear the submission?
Yes.
I was going to suggest that the hearing not be full committee. So we don't need to deal with that now, I'm sure. We can resolve that in some other way. But I just wanted to raise that.
I think that's a good idea, Your Worship. So moved by myself, seconded. You seconding it?
No one else will. That wasn't my purpose. Just to be clear, this is only to go to consultation.
So this, but it still goes to the next council meeting as the final.
Yes, the statement of proposal will be approved at the council meeting and then it will go out for consultation.
Okay, so moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Miller. Any debate? Notice I look directly at Councillor McPherson. Any debate? No?
The council wants to vote for its roads to be reached over time.
So we'll forget the board. All those in favour, please raise your hands. And against?
Carried, Your Worship, with Councillor McPherson dissenting.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's just a bit of a mixed bag today, isn't it? Fabulous.
Riveting.
Keeps us on our toes.
Riveting. Councillor O'Leary.
Page 172, item 16, Frankton Neighbourhood Plan. Welcome, Luke. We can take the very short and succinct report as read.
Thank you. Happy to take any
And any questions?
Move it.
Your Worship, moving, thank you. I'll second that. Question, Councillor Gallagher, yes?
Just so I'm clear, and I'm sorry I didn't catch up with you. The good, obviously very good proposal. This I take basically fits under the umbrella, if you like, of the Hamilton plan, and it's related to the Hamilton East transformation, the CBD transformation, the river plan, and it's in that context. So I sort of looking. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then if I look at the risk, establishing expectations that council cannot deliver on, and needs to have clear deliverables. Neighbourhood plan may be adopted with the direction of the proposed district plan. So obviously I'm very positive towards this initiative, absolutely, but I'm mindful of those risks that are part of that, and I'm also very focused on the fact that this work, I assume, automatically fits in and dovetails absolutely with the other pieces of work that I allude to.
Thank you. Question?
Oh, sorry.
Amala?
Yes. So Luke, I presume risk which Martin just alluded to, risk number 26, or item number 6, page 174, the direction of the neighbourhood plan may be in conflict with the direction of the proposed district plan. Any conflict will need to be managed to ensure the intent of the proposed district plan isn't undermined in terms of maintaining a centres-based approach for commercial development. This is Titanic meets the iceberg. This is exactly the risk that a number of us have been raising throughout the tail end of the district plan proposal, whereby we have made it extremely difficult to put anything new into Franklin. So this is exactly the worst predictions coming true, and you realise there's a risk here.
All I'm doing is highlighting a risk that any future work that we do to deliver the Franklin plan is that it needs to be consistent with the district plan. Now the proposed district plan decisions have been released and there's appeals on that, and there's a possibility that the planning provisions made in Franklin may not be the way that they are at the moment. So we just need to be mindful of how those provisions evolve that this work speaks to that separate process.
What sort of businesses wouldn't be able to go into the Franklin as of right? Could you set up an accounting business in Franklin now?
So sorry, Councillor Miller, that's really a district plan issue in
well,
question, and we've got something coming up. But I think Luke's just highlighting a risk that you would for any if it was Hamilton East plan.
I'm trying to flesh out the risk
plan.
Just trying to get some concrete examples of what that risk pertains
okay.
to. So, would a dance studio be able to go into Franklin?
Well, this piece of work is a non-statutory piece of work. It's not about providing planning controls like the district plan does. So, as I said, we've got appeals on the district plan, specifically relating to Franklin, and we'll be working through those. There's a separate briefing for elected members being held on that on the 16th.
So, would a dance studio be able to go into Franklin under the new district plan?
An art studio.
Dance.
An art studio. Look, I'd have to check that information.
I've just had a dance studio ring me and say they can't. They've been told
Councillor
they
Miller.
can't. Well, I'm just trying to give out some examples.
Relevant. The issue here, the item. Sorry, the chair's talking. The item is about the Frankton Neighbourhood Plan, and this has been in council documents for quite some time now. I know where you're going with your questions. But it's not, they're really district plan discussion questions. This is going to be a plan about where the future of Frankton might be, how it looks, how it feels,
There's a dirty great iceberg out there that will stop it.
Look, I agree.
And we need to understand what those risks are.
Yeah, but that's not for here today.
And the report does allude to those risks now, and I'm just trying to get some of those risks clearly identified so people understand where the contradiction is between this.
I think to help, Luke is saying that there could well be some inconsistencies, and this process would identify those. I don't think today is about trying to identify what those inconsistencies are. It recognises there could be, and through this process, this team will need to work those through, and if there is out of this a need or desire to change the district plan, that will be a subsequent discussion and a subsequent matter to come back to council.
Okay, so as I said, Could a dance studio move into district Franklin?
I can't answer that. I'd need to go back to the district plan.
Could an accounting office go into the district, into Franklin?
It's a standalone office under the current provisions in the district plan.
Under the new district plan.
That's what I'm saying, under the current proposed district plan, the decisions version, standalone office would not be, sorry, you could apply for one, but it's likely to be.
It's not a personal training studio.
So, no, it's not. The questions.
These are all real examples
Mallet,
about real
I know
people
what you're
who
saying,
I
but
know
the chair,
exactly have
look,
been told
I'm
they can't do it.
speaking, and questions are at the discretion of the chair in committee and council meetings, so I'm going to have to stop you on those questions. I get it, I do, but it's not for this report and this item today. So questions, Councillor Gallagher?
Except, Councillor Ballot does raise a very pertinent and important point related to an issues on the district plan and how we communicate that, because obviously we're going to do, the working group will do a body of work, right? But it's really important that we if you like, and that doesn't stop the working group highlighting, in my view, particular issues, because dare I say it, that a plan is always a dynamic document, not in any way interfering or presuming to judge the series of appeals that may sit in the list, as I understand that. You see, so what I'm getting at is this document may throw up some stuff for council to have ongoing considerations, separate from current process.
Yes, I would agree. So I think as I said, we have appeals. We'll be working through those. There'll be ample opportunity for elected members to have their direct input and give us direction about how we are to mediate and settle matters. This is a separate process. It's a non-statutory plan that talks about Franklin in a whole range of methods, not just.
So if I asked you, whoever sits on that group, the advice I'd be wanting if I was on that group would be, I think, Councillor Matt, that is an ongoing issue, and how that group would address it and handle it and what input it would have. Because very clearly, the issue that I think we're talking of and addressing is a significant issue for that area, which I realise, and zones and plans change relatively. And I guess it would be fair to say that we'd want staff very focused on how we process that and what we receive.
And the identification of that risk is merely to say that there's another process that relates to this piece of work and that they should be talking to each other, that they should be cognizant of each other.
Yes.
And I think Luke might be familiar with the district plan and he's going to be involved in this, and this is merely setting up a process. Your Worship, you've moved it. Are you happy to pop some members? Is that what we want to do now? Pop some names in there for the working group? Yeah, I'm just asking because I've already had a mover and a seconder.
I haven't given any thought to that.
All right.
Do you want to?
I'd be happy to be on the committee. I'd be delighted.
Okay, just Councillor Gallagher.
You have the option of you yourself canvassing and suggesting to full council, because this is a matter of recommendation again, a bit like the previous one, and it may be that you might want to do some strategic chats with your colleagues.
I'm happy to
as
do
to
it
who
offline.
sits on that? Is it rather than a sort of a random?
Happy to do it offline. Yeah, okay. Any further questions? Councillor King.
What was the zoning for this area under the operative district plan, the past district plan?
Well, we haven't, one of the first parts of this is to actually identify the scope of the study area. So Franklin is
not under the proposed district plan, under the past district plan, the operative district plan, which is...
Well, the three zones, residential, industrial and commercial. So we haven't defined the area
of Franklin.
This piece of work will apply to. So when you talk about Franklin, either under the operative district plan or the proposed plan provisions, there's a number of zones that apply to, because it's a fairly unique suburb in terms of geographic proximity. So this is one of the key things in this piece of work early on, we sort of to identify what geographic area the work will apply to.
So under the...
No, I'm sorry. With all due respect, we are not going to sit here and talk about the proposed district plan. It is way out of scope. I'm sorry.
Under point 4.
Thank you. Don't.
The central Frankton area is predominantly made up of light industrial. That's just not true. It's made up of retail.
No, Councillor King.
The report is clearly written wrong and it's misleading.
Councillor King.
Point of order, Your Worship.
Look, I'm sorry, but I'm speaking. and I need to manage the meeting correctly. And the item in front of us, I can see your hand, Councillor Mallett. The item in front of us is about a process to set up a plan for the Frankton neighbourhood. And in the executive summary, it says what that plan is and what it isn't. But all of this is about is a process.
The information
We're
we've
not
been given
going
is not
to,
correct.
sorry, Councillor King, I'm still speaking. Thank you. Are through the chair, and I have ruled that we're not going to continue taking questions on the proposed district plan or the operative district plan. We're talking about this. Sorry, Councillor King, I'm not going to ask you again. Please stop interrupting me while I'm trying to manage the meeting. I would really appreciate it. Thank you. Do you have a question, Councillor
The elected
Mallett?
members are given wrong information, and I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Councillor King, Councillor Mallett has his hand up. Question, Councillor Mallett.
Just echoing what Councillor King was about to say. He is quite correct, and I'm being quite genuine here. I start with a smile on my face because I always smile when I look at you.
So do I.
I think you'll find that Councillor King is right. The central Frankton area is predominantly made up of a mixture of light service, industrial and commercial activities with a limited amount of residential dwellings. May not be accurate.
Okay.
So
if
we're getting information from the staff that's not reliable, that raises some concerns.
Noted. The other CE
Okay,
said noted.
so what will the staff do?
Noted.
They've noted it. That's not much, with all due respect, Barry, that's not much use to us. We want accurate information.
I think through the chair, in point 18 is the time frame and the process. The first thing is the evidence base and the background. That is the place where that information will be captured correctly. And I think you've heard the unit manager talk about.
Sorry, there's a bit of. Sorry, I'm trying to do it.
I know, but just let him finish.
Sorry.
I think you've heard the unit manager talk about the fact that evidence, the area of what is Frankton, all those pieces of information will be ascertained, discussed and raised with the working group, and the working group will then determine whether they need more information through that process before they move down the steps.
The CEO's comment noted. I'm not sure if we should take that too seriously or not, because it is a valid concern of an elected member that one of the key issues for the staff is to provide elected members accurate, honest, timely, objective advice. If we're getting advice that is not accurate, timely, objective, then I think elected members have a right to be concerned.
And
noted is not that flash.
Councillor, I have noted your view that you believe the information that's been provided to you is inaccurate. I will investigate whether that is the case. I can't answer whether that's the case or not. I've noted your concern.
Thank you. Do you know, have you got a time frame on that?
No, I don't.
Can you give us a time frame on that?
Councillor Mallett, I'm sure the CE.
No, seriously, can we have a time frame?
The CE will
1
get
week,
back
2
to
weeks?
you. Deputy Mayor.
Can I be my usual helpful self?
Please.
Just say that if Central Frankton area includes Commerce Street, then retail should be added, as
Oh, that's
it
not
would be
helpful,
for
Deputy
Hall
Mayor.
Street.
It is helpful. We've been gathered in here.
I think, look,
Simple.
Councillor King.
So I moved this.
Yes, you did, Your Worship.
Are we ready for speaking?
Yes, we are into speaking time now. We've had
I
enough.
wanted to make a couple of comments. One of the oldest suburbs in our city is Frankton, and it started its life about the same time as we started in Hamilton, and then it joined with us and lost, I guess, a bit of its colour and individuality. This plan is designed to bring that back. It's not a planning instrument. It's about my neighbourhood and how I would like it to be, and the things that we as a city can do to make it have its own, neighbourhood to have its own identity and a lifestyle that reflects what goes on there. So I have to say, Madam Chair, slightly concerned about getting into planning speak, because I thought this project was about neighbourhoods and about identity and about a vision for the future of that village that makes it distinctive and unique. And I certainly hope that is what the project is going to be. And matters about this plan which are well worthy of discussion, and I am looking forward to those discussions because I also share some of the views expressed, are, I understand, already locked in our diaries for discussion, and we've got a process to work through for that, and I hope we do that fairly speedily.
Thank you. Any further speakers? No?
I
All
was
right.
going to blow one. That's good.
So moved by Her Worship, seconded by myself. All those in favour, please raise your hands.
You do the board.
Given up on the board. And any against? That's carried.
Is that unanimous?
Yeah, that was unanimous. Right, last item. Item 17, Draft Library Strategic Plan, page 175. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Worship Councillors.
You can take the report as read, Sue.
Yes, I'm very excited to be able to bring to you the Draft Library Strategic Plan, which is the culmination of a lot of work by the Strategic Plan Working Group, which consisted of elected members who are here, community stakeholders and officers. So essentially that is the plan we wish to use, not essentially, it is the plan we wish to use for community consultation, and I'm seeking your approval to use it for that purpose.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Gallagher.
Just a clarification, and that relates when I, within the group, raised the issue of public consultation, and I just want to relate the under 70 was said this is recommendation to council, but obviously we're taking an action prior to council. So I suspect when it says it's, I assume that's eventual recommendation to council. So that the direction of travel is we adopt the plan now in principle, and then we chuck it out for the next 3 weeks to consultation, and then it comes back to our next PNS meeting for council adopt. Is that how it works? You see what you've got here is you've talked about public.
Through you, Madam Chair, that is the
Right.
process we're proposing.
Right, any other questions, Councillor Miller?
Just Sue, would you take us through, you think, the highlights of it, or the things that are significant?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, yes, of course. The significant part of it is that we are now adopting some of the key worldwide trends that have been shown to be where modern libraries are transforming and where they are now changing and adopting away from warehouses of books into much more community collaborative spaces. Libraries, as you know, are quite social spaces. They're places where creativity is expressed, where literacy is explored, and where learning is explored. So those types of concepts are being adopted into the way we expect to do libraries in the future. And so things like the goals, the Central Library is being recognised as our main central hub library. Libraries are community hubs, they're places of community exploration, community social engagement. Libraries are expecting to optimise technologies, and especially around efficiency and effectiveness of libraries. Libraries are supporting literacy and promoting reader development, and libraries are expecting to run efficiently and effectively. You know, I can wax lyrical here for quite some time. Do you have a specific question that you?
Well, I guess just going through some more. Those are all. You know, I was part of the working group, so I know all this. I guess teasing it out into some more of the concretes. So we are focusing a lot on the main one, the big one. High use of technology, internet, that sort of carry on. I think we're talking about libraries becoming as much a community hub perhaps as community houses are and footy clubs are and things like that are.
We're certainly exploring and expecting that libraries are centres of community.
So it might not be your grandfather's library.
No, we hope it's not your grandfather's library.
The
the whole feeling is that, is that we're trying to get modern libraries here. Not that grandfathers are not welcome.
Any other questions?
Just one very quick
Councillor
question,
Wilson?
it's
Yep.
very broad. Tell me again about the current buying strategy for your books. I understand.
Quite a conflict of interest.
Oh, are you, Councillor Wilson? Oh, Councillor Wilson.
Madam Chair.
You could have given me a sign, I would have put it here.
Madam Chair, I'm delighted to say Hamilton Library, like every library in the country, already has one.
Excellent.
Conflict of interest.
My question is, and it gleams from it, here's the question, and you may be interested. What a library could buy a book from an author is considerably cheaper than the current mechanism we engage. A library buys books from a wholesaler entity, and I'm just fascinated why we do that, where if you actually go to the author direct, you would be entitled to the same discounts that a bookstore would be entitled to, up to 50%. So I'm just fascinated why we choose to buy from one supplier at an inflated price, when in theory we could be getting it at half the price. Just a question.
Through you, Madam Chair.
Cheaper on Amazon.
So,
through you, Madam Chair. We buy from an aggregator who is able to supply us with shelf-ready books. That means that they're already catalogued, processed, stamped with all the stamps, stickered with all the stickers, and everything that we need in order to put it on our shelves directly. We did this more than a decade ago in order to be able to reduce our staffing numbers. So that is exactly why, and we achieved as well.
Thank you. That answers the question.
it's a good question. Right, no further questions. Councillor Gallagher, debate.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously
Comment.
be supporting the report and compliment the chair of the working group on the way in which he conducted this. And I think we've come, from my point of view, I had some worries, reservations, particularly around the community hub and our suburban libraries. But I think it's very interesting how we've actually started to look as potentially growing those particular places into broader community hubs, which I've obviously observed in Christchurch and other good practice places. Obviously, in terms of this is, if you like, a high-level document to a degree, and in our 10-year plan, the huge challenge will be how can we be innovative to perhaps look at the areas in our city that are not serviced by the immediate neighbourhood suburban library or community hub, and namely, obviously, Rototuna, Flagstaff, Enderley and Norton. And there are different ways in which you can sort of, if you like, look at provision in those areas and where you rank and how you fund. And obviously we're going to be very much, dare I say, taxed over the next wee while. Really delighted that we talk about provide collections that reflect our diverse community. So there's been obviously a lot of thought between the professional staff and the Friends of the Library and the working group in this document. In my view, this is actually a good document. However, I make this very constructively. So far, in essence, this has been a closed process. This is a working group, and now we actually put that part of the finding into the light of day, and we actually really want to do everything we can, and albeit it's only 3 weeks, but at least it's 3 weeks, and there are some reasons why that is the case, to totally encourage people now, the thousands of library users, etc., to have their input and their say on this document. And that, to me, is equally important as the library group, okay? That is equally as important, because this is, even in terms of current legislation, seen as one of the core services of local government and of this City Council. So I'm hoping with the right communication strategy, Madam Chair, that we will get some really good input, and obviously want to express also the thanks to the Friends of the Library and the citizens who have so far, and the professionals who came in and engaged in this. So I think this is a good road of travel, personally, but I'm really interested now to see what interested members of the public and consumers think.
Actually need a mover and a seconder.
I was going to, just to clarify, and I think Sue was...
Yeah.
Martin, you weren't involved in the first probably 3 or 4 meetings, or maybe 4 meetings, excuse me, and there was a little bit of consultation done. You did
sorry,
survey.
I was.
Then I think there was an email, a website type submission that could be done too. So it's not a full consultation process, but some consultation.
Yeah, and by way of information, and I was absent and
That's not totally close.
from Hamilton, but I was, thank you, through Andrew and through our staff.
But we're not
in
full
touch.
voice consultation.
But I acknowledge, through the Chair, fair point, that's a very good point, and I absolutely acknowledge that. This now, if you like, I guess what I'm really looking for is an opportunity for people to give us a comprehensive response.
Second, so it's been moved by Councillor King, seconded. Councillor Mallett. Any further speakers? Your Worship?
Libraries are changing. They're changing all around the world, and our city needs to respond to those changes. And in fact, the community is expecting us to, because they have, throughout this process, offered comments. I do have to slightly disagree with Councillor Gallagher that thousands of people, in fact, have given views about the libraries, both before the working group started and after the working group started. And the construction of the working group included experts in libraries and people representing our older communities, young communities, and friends of the library, and iwi. So it was a pretty active discussion group. One of the challenges for our city is to meet the changes that are coming to libraries and to do it within the fiscal constraints that we operate in. One of the things that's very good about this plan is that it faces those challenges, and I think sets out some really good objectives and actions that are totally achievable, but the challenge for us will be in the 10-year plan to implement it. And I'm looking forward to the staff coming back to us in that 10-year plan to tell us how we're going to implement this. Because as the Councillor Gallagher points out, that will be when some priorities will be we need to look at them.
Thank you. Any further speakers, Councillor King?
Yeah, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank those who are involved. As I was the chair, so there was the elected members, there's the mayor, Sue Scott, the older person's representative, the young person's representative, iwi, Friends of the Library, and Sue from Wellington, who's an international library expert, and Leanne for your support to me personally to get this all done. I'm looking forward to the outcome of the review and what staff come back to us with, and I'm certainly supporting this recommendation.
Thank you. Just do it on the hands. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Any against? That's carried. Thank you very much. That concludes the Strategy and Policy Committee meeting.